or shadows creep. Candace wants to sow her seeds, pouring silver hearts in deep. A chilling tale of twisted needs. Thomas and Matthew shining through, voicing truth in shades of blue. Gish Gallagher in a twisted spree, pouring silver, what a sight to see. Thomas and Matthew stand up and fight for the truth that brings us into the light. The podcast speaks a warning loud against the tides of poison thought. Innocence lost beneath a shroud, their message sharp, real lessons taught. With every word they break the chain, challenging the dark, embracing the pain. Gish Gallagher in a twisted spree, pouring silver, what a sight to see. Thomas and Matthew stand up and fight for the truth that brings us into the light. In the echo of the night, they stand strong, ready to ignite.
Okay, you just heard the acoustic rock theme. Welcome to Gish Gallagher. My name is Thomas Anderson, and with me is
Matthew Anderson and
Yep.
Squish again.
Yes, the cat decided to come in here ahead of time this time,
Yep.
and she's sitting peacefully over there.
For now.
All right, what you may or may not have heard, I don't know if you can hear lyrics, is talking about pouring silver in the eyes of people. That is a thing that is going to come up today again and again and again, and I'm not sorry. I spent at least a week worth of not a week worth of time, that would have been crazy, but I spent at least 2 hours a day for about a week scripting this episode, doing all the research and shit, and I got thrown out of two of my Reddit accounts got thrown out of the Candace Owens subreddit.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually found it. It's right here. So, let's go ahead and get into the material. Episode 31. A Shot in the Dark, Part 5. Hello, everybody. As I write this, there is a new pope in the world. The first North American pope.
Yep.
From Chicago, no less. A good Midwestern boy, Leo the 14th.
There have been so many memes of him with Tommy guns and like a Chicago deep dish in front of him.
All he needs is the Al Capone style fedora or whatever the fuck.
God.
Right?
He should get a fully white
God. This was funny. Leo the 14th. Mm-hmm. Okay, J.D. Vance goes to meet him. Now J.D. Vance met the last pope.
And he kicked it, yeah.
Yeah. And he met Biden.
Yeah.
And then Biden's got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
This pope from America.
Yeah.
This footage of him meeting Vance and pretending not to know English. I saw some of the footage. I was like, "Oh wow!" I mean, I get why he's doing it. You know, the fucking angel of death just visited you, and you're not a spring chicken. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But yeah, I want to share some bullshit I saw on the Candace Twitter feed regarding this event with Leo the 14th. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Candace has taken, as of this time, now this was true almost 2 weeks ago when I started writing this.
Yeah.
She took maternity leave. Mm-hmm. She's supposed to be gone for 5 weeks. we're going to get into a little bit of why that sucks. But first, it was time for her to have the fourth child, recover and so on, which is the same thing the Republicans have fought hard against regular people having, maternity leave.
Which is bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm noting this because of the fucked up shit I saw on her timeline on Twitter. Before we get into the episode, I want to make a correction on something I said in the last episode regarding the links on the Candace Patreon.
Oh.
On the episode for the general public or free members, the links are there. People did not have to pay to see them. I know because I'm not paying her a single cent. Squishy, get away from the microphone.
Come here. Oh.
I'm not paying her a single cent, and I found them after our episode aired. So there is that.
Okay.
I just wanted to be honest and upfront on it. Another correction I want to make. Last week we were talking about if we've ever done a canned soda or not. We actually have.
Okay.
Yeah, I remembered that a couple days later I was reviewing the episode and I was like, have we ever done a canned soda? Yes, we have. The Warheads.
Was that one? Oh, yeah, that one was in a can. Yeah,
the Warheads. Well, we did 2 or 3 of them.
No, I thought we only did the one flavor of Warheads, but we saw the other Warheads when we were...
right.
Yeah.
Something like that.
'Cause,
I don't remember, but
yeah.
those were canned.
Okay.
Yeah, those were
Well,
canned.
I remember when we were at the Hy-Vee,
Yeah.
I spotted the one, and I was like, ooh, we should do that, and I don't remember what fucking flavor it was. I think it was lemon or some shit like that.
That's right, lemon. I was like,
Yeah.
that's too obvious.
Yeah, so we went for the obscure one, which I don't even remember the fucking...
It was red? Was it cherry? I don't remember.
I don't remember if it was cherry, strawberry, or what.
I think it was cherry, and I remember being unimpressed. Like, it didn't stand out.
Clearly we were unimpressed. We don't even fucking remember it.
Yeah, barely remember it. I'm certain it's back there in the catalog somewhere, but I didn't even take a picture of the damn thing. I'm sure I could find one online. It is the internet, after all.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
Squish. Stop.
Maybe she wants to leave. I don't know. Yeah. On May the 4th, one of our most hallowed days,
Yes.
Candace posted to Twitter famous last words. Husband, I'm meeting up with Michael Knowles and the guys tonight for a cigar to discuss the conclave. Me, another Catholic meetup? Would be fitting if I went into labor tonight. Husband, would be great because then I could potentially make it to the conclave next week. A few hours later, Roman Michael Farmer, born a few days early so his father could potentially make it to the conclave next week. Like, what the actual fuck? This man just had a kid with his wife, and he is flying off to Italy to attend a conclave for a church he doesn't recognize? And Michael Knowles, by the way, is a Daily Wire host and runs a podcast called Verdict with shitbag fuck Senator Rafael Cruz, also known as Ted Cruz of Texas. Yes, the Daily Wire, the same organization that supposedly fired Candace. Her husband is friends and still colleagues with the people that fired her. The more I learn about this marriage from Hades, the less I believe there is any sort of love in it. Every strong couple I know would call this out.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
What? Do you mean when you say when you learn of the marriage from Hades? How do you mean in that regard?
Like hell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say Hades at least out of all the Greek gods never cheated on his wife.
Right.
Except I think once.
Well, I mean that we know of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, every strong couple I know would call this out. Like, they supposedly fired her, and he himself keeps a relatively low profile. So there's no reason why he wouldn't have beef with these guys, and, I don't know, maybe not smoke cigars with them while discussing the conclave.
To a church that he doesn't recognize.
Yeah.
On top of it, yeah.
Yeah, fucking absurd. Anyway, let's get on with the show. No.
Stop trying to rub on it.
She's rubbing on the microphone, folks. No.
No.
Ugh. Cat.
No, stop trying to rub on the microphone.
Ish. Anyway, when she was laying near it last week and she was like purring,
Yeah.
it sounded like a strong hum on the recording. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yes. I love you. You're floofy and weird right now.
And you're bad for audio.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So, let's get on with the show. Now, last episode I played every ad break she did for her own shit because I thought it was funny. I still do, but I promise, unless she runs a different ad during the rest of these shows, I won't play them again.
Oh.
I didn't get any pushback on it. I just don't feel like putting us all through that again. We've all heard the Patreon read now many times.
Is it just the same Patreon read over and over?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
It's the laziest, low quality, low effort shit. And I'm going to get into other lazy, low quality, low effort shit later on. Because I had to actually watch an episode. Actually, I had to watch this episode to get a thing. And trust me, it's in the material.
Like you had to watch the video of
I did,
the,
yeah. Yeah. I'm going to get into why.
Okay,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I didn't get any pushback on it. I just don't feel like putting us all through that again. We've all heard the Patreon read now many times. It seems like overkill to keep it up. Also, between recordings, I dropped into the r/Candace Owens group on Reddit. I told them who I am. As it is on my main Reddit profile anyway. If someone just clicks my profile on Reddit, Reddit for frogs. I wonder if that's a group. That's got to be a group. There's so many groups on Reddit. Anyway,
here's the question: though,
like if they click on my Reddit avatar, it's the exact same one I use across all the socials.
Okay.
That I had an AI make. Yeah.
Are you talking about the ones for the Thomas Anderson?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I should have figured that you wouldn't.
No. It's too much. It's too much fun. Yeah. So anyway, I explained the show parameters. This is exactly what I said. I titled it, "Wow, I have no idea how this community slipped by me." They have close to 6,000 members.
Jesus.
Very little interaction though. A lot of lurkers, I think. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I wrote, "So my name is Thomas Anderson, and I run a Candace Owens focused podcast called Gish Gallop Girl. We are currently exploring her work in the A Shot in the Dark series, breaking down the various mistruths in the series one by one. I don't run ads or a Patreon anymore, cut it off a few months ago. I actively pay money to have my hobby exist in the world. That said, I'd like to engage here and provide pushback to her various claims if you'll tolerate an actual voice of dissent here. Mm-hmm. I'm aware that this is Reddit and echo chambers are normal. That doesn't bother me. I don't mind being downvoted or called names or blocked. I'm fairly active on Reddit, see my post and comment histories, so I don't mind engaging if anyone has actual facts to push back on my assertions about Candace's work, or more often, lack thereof. She lies. In caps, a lot. Often rapid fire, hence the name of my show. For my part, I am trying to have a total perspective of her work. Not just from my own many hours of research, but also from what I perceive as fans here. Like, how do fans of her perceive the things she says? Do you actually believe it all, or just some of it, or is it just entertaining? I realize that by posting this, it may get me a ban from this sub, or this post may be taken down by the mods. Doesn't matter. Either way, I'm trying to extend a hand in understanding you folks." I was banned from the subreddit only a few hours later.
Jesus.
From what I was able to see, about 400 people actually saw the post. So, yeah. Of course, they called me names and tried to draw me out of being cordial. I saved screenshots from the exchanges I had, but it all came out to nothing major. Mm-hmm. I managed to check on the post views from the time it went up to just before I got banned, and it was seen about 400 times. So they know about the show, at any rate.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get more seen over time, if for nothing else than to let people know this show exists. Again, not for money or to build a following or anything, but to get the truth out there that there is a resource here to turn to for people that want the actual truth. I still have no plans to run ads or restart the Patreon or take any money for this show. This is my hobby, my way to work on my anger issues with people like Candace. That's all I have to say about that right now.
And not to mention that, I mean, yeah, even if it is a bit of a sarcastic thing of trying to understand them better, it would be...
Yeah. Well, some of them, like I said, only one person that responded. There were only about 4 respondents. Mm-hmm. Only one person that responded said, yeah, for me, her show is mostly entertaining. I don't care about most of what she says. All right, fair.
Yeah.
You know? Like, okay, you know, you do you, dog.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I didn't, I didn't, someone called me or they said something about Macron and whatever. I didn't even engage with that. It's just like, fuck, well, whatever. You know, like, I wasn't about to engage with anybody that was willfully trying to be a douchebag. Mm-hmm. I expected that. It's Reddit.
Well, yeah.
You know?
I mean, I went on to Reddit earlier for an Oblivion Remastered thing, because I was like...
Oh, the Oblivion sub is lit as fuck.
Well,
I love the remaster.
Well, one of the folks, I was like... I just needed to know what the perks and downsides of going with Dementia or Mania would be.
Right.
And, so I just entered that into Google, and the first thing that popped up was the ever-reliable source of Reddit.
Yeah.
With a guy's full breakdown of all the gear and equipment and perks you get from it.
God. Real
And
fan.
he was like, yeah, the Mania stuff is objectively just better at higher levels. The Dementia stuff sucks ass, looks horrible, and frankly, if you like it, you can go fuck yourself. I don't care.
Fair.
But also, to be fair, here's everything. And I'm just like... I mean, at least he's honest.
Yeah. Okay. That's all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so let's get into the material. Oh, yeah, what I was saying, though, was I got a second account of mine banned from the same group.
I'm assuming...
Because they were just so... Well, they were just... I didn't announce who I was. But they were just so dickish and stupid. I could not respond. But I thought maybe if I respond as someone else, one of my sub accounts that doesn't hold any
value or anything.
Well, it doesn't hold any value at all, but it doesn't hold anything. Like if you look at the post histories between the accounts, there's nothing similar.
Okay.
It's a separate person entirely, basically.
Yeah.
I use it to scroll Fox News and other shit on Reddit. When I'm like, oh, let me check this thing out, you know. Like, I don't want to do it as myself. I don't need that fucking up my personal algorithm. I went to the other one. Well, yeah, no, they banned that one too. Because I just kept pushing back on shit. These people have the ultimate echo chamber. But what was funny, though, was somebody posted a thing in there and they said, it's one of the posts that's still up as far as I know, but they were like, why is this sub so quiet? And one of my responses off the bat was, oh, they block and ban anyone who voices any kind of dissent, so there's no real discussion to be had here. That is still up. I have a third account. I went to go look. Yeah.
Wait, so they banned and blocked your second account.
Yeah.
But they left up your post.
They left up the comment. They didn't delete my comment, but they banned the account. Well, it was other things like that too. Like it was just me pushing back constantly because people were like, what? Someone posted up. Candace had done a special announcement this week.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, fuck, I need to tune into the live one. So I got my earbuds and I went and I was doing my job and it was like 4:00 a couple days ago. And so I go into, I go into the store and I'm doing my thing and I'm listening. Her entire special announcement that she wanted to just stop the internet for was, I swear to God, she's doing a second series on Brigitte Macron. We haven't covered the first series that she did because I never thought it would get that far. It's stupid as shit. Oh, it was that, and she was announcing she is doing another series with Harvey Weinstein. Are you familiar in any way with Harvey Weinstein?
I've heard the name before and never with anything good prefacing it.
No. He was a shitbag Hollywood producer.
Yeah.
That fucked up a lot of women's lives and a lot of other people besides. And
sorry, I was gonna say, is he the one that was supposed to testify? But I'm thinking of Epstein, not Weinstein.
No.
I'm getting my Steens mixed up here.
Yeah, you're getting the... Oh, yeah, well, anyway, Candace has been doing a series of interviews with him. He's currently in prison still.
Okay.
And she's doing a series of interviews with him because she's like, something just didn't add up in his story. I'm like, yeah, we'd have all the evidence. The only reason why he's getting a retrial, the only reason he is getting a retrial in this world, because he was sent to prison.
Like proper prison?
Yeah, proper prison.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the only reason why he's getting a fucking retrial is because in the original trial, they allowed testimony from people that only had hearsay, not direct evidence or experience with the stories surrounding him.
Okay.
So that, to be fair, is fucked up. The prosecutor shouldn't have done that.
No.
But the fact that the original judge let it go is also fucky. That said, Harvey Weinstein is still very much a Hollywood shitbag.
Yeah.
And I can't quite figure out why she would want to befriend him unless she's got some higher angle for it wrapped up in her career.
That's
the only thing I can figure.
I feel like she doesn't think that far ahead, though.
I don't think she thinks that far ahead. I think her husband does. One of the things that she talked about in one of her episodes that I was listening to previously in the week, and this will come out more later on this one, it was an episode from November 19th of last year.
Mm-hmm.
She talked about how she told her husband that she wanted to have her own website with her own merch and everything set up, which is what became Club Candace. And he told her, Mr. Guy worth tens of millions of dollars, told her, well, it'll take a lot of money to set up. No, it doesn't.
No,
it fucking doesn't. And she just he told me it would take a lot of money to set up and some time. And it's time, maybe. If you're hiring 2 web developers for the shit that I've seen at this website, that doesn't, you could give a couple of the right web developers a pallet of Red Bull, and they will have the shit cooking inside of a weekend.
Yeah.
They will have done the beta testing. They will be at fucking ready to go stage. It's not.
Yeah.
Websites are damn near a science right now. The only reason why ours kind of sucks is because I don't spend any time on it, and I really should. I'm busy doing the show and trying to enjoy my day as it comes out. But yeah, I will be working on it more over time because I really feel bad about it. But that's, like I said, it's just every time I hear anything about this man, he sounds like such a petty little bitch. What the actual fuck? The Pope died, and I'm gonna go smoke cigars and talk about the conclave with my friends that fired your sorry ass. I just... What a fucking dillhole. Oh, God.
Maybe our son could be born a little bit sooner so I can go to the conclave and smoke cigars.
Yeah, so I can go to Italy.
Christ.
Okay, let's get this started. All right, here we go.
Okay guys, welcome back. We are at episode 5 of A Shot in the Dark, and I'm so sorry that this episode is running late. We had a tornado last week in Nashville, and I had to get out on a flight a little bit earlier than I intended to beat the tornado, and I subsequently then missed my slot that I had scheduled for filming this, but it's okay because it's here. And I know that we said we were going to move on to the next vaccine, but actually somebody wrote to me and reminded me that I had not covered the eye drops that are given to infants at birth. Erythromycin is what it is referred to. That's its medical name, erythromycin. And obviously, if you've had a child, you know that it is recommended that you get these eye drops. And not only did I totally forget to cover this in an episode, but I also had assumed that my husband and I had declined these drops, and my husband reminded me that actually, in fact, we had not declined these drops, that the doctor said to us, oh, It's just eye drops, not a big deal. We recommend it, and you should get them. And of course, my husband's thinking this is just like, I don't know, salt water. What would you think if a doctor says these are just like infant eye drops? You're not going to think it's anything toxic or there's any reason not to get it, especially when a doctor recommends it. So apparently, I cannot say that we declined everything during the birth of my son, but I can guarantee that after doing a deep dive on this, we will be declining this for our next child, which is due in July.
Yeah, go ahead.
What? Okay, so let me get this straight. She couldn't do last week's show because there was a tornado, so she had to get on a plane to go wherever it was that she needed to go at a sooner time slot because there was a tornado. What kind of I need to get out of this date because I don't like you, so I texted my friends while you weren't looking, and now they're calling me to tell me that my grandmother died, so I have to go now to go to my grandmother's funeral. Like, what kind of bullshit excuse is that for a thing? Like, I understand tornadoes in Nashville are bad, but also, like, what kind of bullshit reason is, oh, there was a tornado, so I had to take a fucking plane earlier? No, your plane gets delayed when there is that bad of a tornado storm going on.
You know, and the funny thing is, too, is like, it's, God, like, just, her luck with tornadoes is really something else. And, yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit more, but, yeah, so at least she's practicing some honesty in this clip for a change. She could have just lied about the eye drops.
Yeah.
Anyway, erythromycin is commonly applied as an eye ointment in Tennessee, where Candace resides, when an infant has just been born in the neonatal period. Erythromycin is cheap and effective at preventing gonococcal ophthalmia. I'm going to say this right. Gonococcal ophthalmia neonatorium, otherwise abbreviated, thank God, as GON, which is a serious infection caused by a bacterium known as Neisseria gonorrhoeae, which can be transmitted from mother to infant if the mother has a gonorrhea infection. The infection can lead to severe eye damage, including corneal scarring, ocular perforation, and even blindness if left untreated in the first 24 hours after birth. Now, even if a mother doesn't have an STI, another reason to immediately do this for infants is that it helps keep conjunctivitis, also known as pink eye, from developing with a baby. Pink eye can cause vision problems or blindness if it isn't treated right away in a newborn. This is something that can happen from any number of causes not related to the mother. Next clip.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. What is erythromycin for those of you that are considering getting these eye drops for your newborn baby? The first thing you should know is that it is an antibiotic. So yes, they can tell you that this is just an eye ointment. They're not drops, they're actually an ointment. But it's also an antibiotic, and as we all know, antibiotics are never good unless you need them. Antibiotics destroy your gut health. We'll get into them down the line when we start talking about different alternatives and more natural remedies for various illnesses, but you should never say that something is an easy decision to give to your newborn infant who doesn't really have their gut established if it contains antibiotic. Why is it amazing? I think that the reason this is particularly amazing to me is because you just finished being pregnant and your doctor told you not to even eat deli meat. That would be too much of a risk. Your doctor told you not to get in the hot tub for too long. That would be too much of a risk. Don't get into the sauna. Don't eat too much seafood. Mercury, I think, is what they tell you to avoid. I don't eat too much seafood, so I don't know what their reasons are behind it.
I'm sorry, but the not getting into a sauna or into a hot tub while pregnant sounds like a real first world problem.
You're right.
Like I've never heard that be given a reason from a doctor, but I'm sure that is a reason that they give. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, you don't want to boil the baby.
No. So first, erythromycin is an antibiotic available in a number of different delivery methods. In this case, it is an eye cream or eye ointment. Now we see Candace practicing the common grift of, I'm just a mom. I don't know the reasons for these things they tell you to do or why it's bad. And I find that dishonest at best and appallingly misinformed at worst. At the time this was made, there were about 1 million paid subscribers to Daily Wire Plus. I wasn't able to get any information on how many people she personally pulled on the network, nor her salary. So it's hard to say what her direct reach actually was, but since she was a celebrated voice on the platform, it seems safe to bet that thousands of people were tuned into this specific content at the time. During this same period, in her time at the Daily Wire, she was shilling for an advertiser known as the Wellness Company. And we've covered them before. To recap why this matters, TWC sells several different products, many of which have antibiotics included as medicines in the kits they move. And Candace has pushed specific antibiotics in ad reads for them. And then, of course, in the episode we did on election night, I played a clip of her relating a story about how she wouldn't give her son antibiotics for pink eye when they were in Japan visiting Kanye West. Instead, she poured colloidal silver in his eye because she refuses to use antibiotics. Fucking hypocrisy is the subtext of the grift, I guess, but it is still appalling. Anyway, I looked into some of the other claims she ran through. For one, this ointment is shown to have a minimal impact on neonatal gut health. No robust studies have been done, but this is definitely a risk-averse scenario, considering how many times babies can touch or scratch their faces, or get held by or are simply around people that can have all sorts of unknown health conditions. But as for the other items in her list, pregnant women are warned against deli meat due to the known risk of listeria that can be in them due to processing. Just in the last couple years, Boar's Head and other companies have had recalls due to this risk.
Oh, yeah.
So that is not surprising.
Know about that one.
Yeah. Listeria could very well cause a miscarriage and other reproductive harms. Hot tubs, especially during the first trimester, can increase the risk of serious birth defects such as spina bifida. And finally, the last thing she dropped the ball on in that clip, seafood. Certain types of seafood are recommended to be avoided during pregnancy, and they are all known to be high in mercury, which can harm the developing brain.
Mm-hmm.
Those include shark, swordfish, king mackerel, Gulf tilefish, big eye tuna, marlin, and orange roughy. Other fish and seafood carry less risk and are noted as such. It's just fucking absurd that she wouldn't have that information handy or in her show notes.
Yeah. Not to mention, swordfish. God, I miss swordfish sushi. Remember when we used to get that at
Oh yeah, at that buffet.
Yeah,
in Orange Park, yeah.
Yeah, the orange buffet. I love the fucking swordfish sushi.
I liked the smoked salmon sushi. That was my favorite. The swordfish and the smoked salmon. Because swordfish, like tuna, salmon too. If you get a good fatty salmon, it'll melt in your mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, those three fish separately, no one's going to tell you one is the other. You're not going to fool anybody.
No.
They have very strong flavors.
Yeah.
Very strong, notable flavors.
I wonder what they'd all taste like if you sandwiched them together and then ate it.
It would taste delicious. I don't see why we should consider that further. It would be delicious.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair, yes.
But you have to fuck it up a little. You do those.
Wasabi paste?
No, fuck you. Wasabi sucks.
No, okay.
I said it. Wasabi sucks. No, what you do, right? This is what I would do.
All right.
Because I would make it sacrilegious at best.
Yeah.
I would take those three, right? Maybe smoked salmon, maybe not smoked salmon. It really depends. But yeah, I would take those three, right? I would layer them on rye bread with American cheese between the layers. Then I would pan fry that sandwich like a hot pastrami, and I would cut it in half.
The only problem that I see with that is the swordfish is can't have too much swordfish due to the amount of mercury in it. So you'd have to make sure it's either a really thin layer Or use it in like the absolute middle to cause that delicious like lump in there, and
Yeah.
just put like a
Yeah, you just
strip
take a
in.
swordfish steak and slice it in half.
Oh well, fair enough. Yeah. I forget we sell them in. Yeah, we sell them
Yeah.
in steak, like actual steaks here.
Yeah, like you can get them as actual like steaks. Or same with tuna.
Okay.
You just slice it in the middle. You know. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I know what I'm wasting my money on.
Okay, so here's the next clip.
As soon as the baby comes out, we've got the Hep B shot lined up. We have these antibiotics, these eye ointment that they want you to instantly put into your child's eye, and as we discussed, the vitamin K shot. So I'm always just amazed by that, just the do's and the don'ts. And the do's always tend to be whatever lines the pocket of Big Pharma. The don'ts, whatever you can do at home that does not pay Big Pharma. So it's first a good idea that we just dive into the history of erythromycin and figure out why it is that we use it today. So I'm just pulling up this website, and you can find this across many websites that will provide you with a closer look at how we got here. And this website just says, in the 19th century, a large number of newborn babies were blinded due to gonococcal ophthalmia neonatorum. Okay, so basically a bunch of newborns were being born with gonorrhea, and their eyes were being impacted, born of parents that had gonorrhea, mothers that had gonorrhea, and their eyes were being impacted by this, and their eyes were possessing an infection, which was caused, of course, because gonorrhea is a very serious STD, and if it's present inside of a mother, it would make sense that it would impact the child on its way out of the canal. Now, this next sentence I want you to pay attention to, because we're going to discuss it in segment 2. The next sentence says, a German obstetrician and gynecologist named Karl Krede found that placing a drop of silver nitrate solution into each eye lowered the chances of babies developing gonorrhea, gynecological, that is the eye, GON is what it stands for, by 97%. So gonococcal ophthalmia neonatorum was 90% lessened their chances if they simply took a silver nitrate solution. Eventually, it goes on, the silver nitrate that was used as a treatment for GON was found to be the cause of extreme eye irritation, chemical pink eye, and other vision problems. Silver nitrate was used because at that time, antibiotics didn't yet exist. So they had found a solution to this, but then they realized some bad things about their solution, even though it was very successful, and they decided to do a major switch to antibiotics, which are obviously much stronger and not as natural as silver nitrate. Again, something that I want you to remember.
Okay, well, kudos to Candace on getting the pronunciation of most of those words generally right.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, silver nitrate is not a naturally occurring object.
No.
It is made in a laboratory setting by dissolving silver in nitric acid.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of walking up on a perfect pool or puddle of this stuff are pretty much non-existent.
And if you do, run, because there's probably worse things about.
Yeah. The EPA refers to it as a, quote, common natural substance, unquote, in one fact sheet. But this is misleading because the compound itself isn't really found in nature. Only its ion particles are, so it is an inorganic compound, not even a natural extract or anything. STIs were way more common in past times, so practices like giving neonates a preventive measure of silver nitrate, once it was found to work effectively at halting neonate blindness, of course, it became almost universally accepted in Europe and America. It was also found to be extremely irritating to newborn eyes. An illness called transient toxic pink eye occurred in 50 to 90% of newborns treated with it,
Jesus.
and it was not effective against chlamydia transmission, which is another major cause of infant blindness. Transient toxic pink eye sounds worse than it is, by the way. It's
Okay.
just a real bad irritation of the eyes from the silver nitrate. It resolves on its own, but babies don't need help hating the world outside the womb. Yeah. They seem pretty pissed about being out.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of the ones I've dealt with, yeah.
Very, very angry, very very angry little tyrannical things. Next.
I'm going to discuss it in segment 2. So this is essentially what we're talking about here, by the way, this is the one-size-fits-all method for Big Pharma, right? So you have some mothers, they're presenting with gonorrhea, and these mothers are giving birth to children. These children are having impact in their eyes. It's, they're starting to realize these kids maybe have conjunctivitis, and they're going, okay, well, now to prevent this, we're going to make it so that every infant that is born has to take this prophylaxis. You would never, as a parent, allow this to fly if you had considered it in other realms, right? So let's take that example and say, I, Candace Owens, am a child, like I did have asthma, severe asthma growing up, and they have all of these prophylactic inhalers for asthma, right? Imagine if I said to you that because I have asthma, your child must partake in taking an Advair inhaler twice a day. Would you do it? Like right now, if I said, hey, actually I have asthma, so please your child also take an Advair inhaler as a prophylactic in case down the line perhaps they do get asthma. You would say, Candace, that's actually insane. Why on earth would I expose my child to these risks that come associated with this Advair inhaler that you take when my child does not have asthma? And yet, for whatever reason, when it comes to vaccines and STDs, we do this. It's to me the definition of insanity. Like, I just don't understand why on earth we would possibly be doing this. All these prophylactic treatments, drops, vitamin K, whatever it is, for something that our child does not actually have, right? So that is the case with this eye ointment. This eye ointment solution only makes sense if you are actually presenting with gonorrhea. So a good question to also ask, by the way, is how common, full stop, is gonorrhea in pregnant women? And I'm going to take you guys right over to this NIH.gov website, and it tells you.
Okay, give me a second here, letting this cat back out. Okay. All right. So, why it matters. So here's another dumb tool for the dumb. Asthma is not typically something you can give to another person.
Yeah.
It's not a communicable condition or disease. Whereas STIs can be passed along in various ways that have nothing to do with sexual contact. Asthma can run in families due to genetic factors, but it is not something that can be passed on physically from one person to another. Fucking absurd. Now, I went on a search as to how prevalent gonorrhea was prior to the administration of silver nitrate. What I found was that, surprise, surprise, old-timey people from past times, they were fucking like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Given the prevalence of lead and so much other shit in their daily lives, they may have been crazy. Anyway.
Likely were.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, gasoline used to be made with it. That's why it says unleaded gasoline still at stations. Lets you know, hey, this has got a lot of other shit in it, but it doesn't have lead.
Yeah.
We're not crazy. Anyway, gonorrhea has a history dating back to the 12th century. And unfortunately, women are often asymptomatic carriers of it. Cleaner sex practices over the last 100 years have cut it down significantly. But at the time silver nitrate became a standard practice, and later erythromycin, it was often a guessing game as to what mothers did or did not have it. And since over half of the infants born in any period suffered eye damage, including blindness from passing through the infected birth canal, this was a real cause for concern. Candace is here engaging in applying the modern wrong-headed take on how this became a standard practice, and I think it's pretty fucked up. Saying that Big Pharma, her catch-all bad guy, was the originator of this practice is absurd as well, because there was no big pharmaceutical company when this practice started with silver nitrate. Large pharmaceutical companies, such as Eli Lilly, who discovered and launched erythromycin under the brand name Ilisone in 1952, did not exist at this time. Candace gets to stay ignorant of these basic facts, or the basic fact that even if a woman knew that she had gonorrhea, she might be hesitant to tell her partners because of all the reasons why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Moving on.
Do right away. In the abstract, gonorrhea prevalence in pregnant women in the United States is generally low, less than 1%. although prevalence in certain subsets of the population remains a matter of concern. Rates of 10% have been found in some central city adolescent prenatal clinics. Rates as high as this are quite often found in developing countries. The risks of transmission to the newborn are well studied for ophthalmia neonatorum and are 30% to 40%. Now I want to be clear, when they say ophthalmia neonatorum, they are not referring to the gonorrhea kind. They're just referring to like the eye irritation that can come out of a child when they are exposed to gonorrhea. But when they say that is essentially just conjunctivitis, what we would refer to as pink eye, right? So they're basically saying your child can come out and they could have pink eye or conjunctivitis because of what they've been exposed to through the canal, and that risk of transmission is very, very high in children that are born to mothers that have gonorrhea. And then it goes on, the risks of disseminated gonococcal infection of the newborn, right? So the child actually getting a gonococcal infection are unmeasured but are clearly rare events. So this is a rare circumstance, but again, the eye irritation is what they are trying to prevent with this prophylactic treatment. And I just find that this is an interesting study to take a look at, because when you click the full text article, by the way, a lot of people have been asking me when I send you these NIH.gov, all of these links on my Patreon, a lot of people are going, how do I read the full text? Just right here on the right-hand side, and we will circle this in post, it says full text links. This one says Wiley full text article on the right-hand side.
What?
You just click that.
How the fuck do you
And it will
not?
take you to the full article.
It says a lot about her audience, doesn't it?
It sadly does, yes.
She just says a lot about her audience that she just had to describe that shit. This is not a crowd that is going to actually take the time to read a study if they aren't bothering to literally click the link to read the full thing that is right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the risk of passing on from mother to child eye problems from gonorrhea or chlamydia is lower these days, but it is not zero.
No.
It is lower because the incidence of these STI in the population is lower because of safer sexual practices. But as noted, it is not zero.
Mm-hmm.
A mother can test clean and still be required to have this ointment on her children at birth because of that non-zero risk. The concern is that false negative results exist, and the numbers are shocking. False negatives for chlamydia tests can be up to 28% in any given year. And gonorrhea carries a false negative rate of 44 to 56%.
I believe it.
There are a number of reasons for this, such as timing of the test. Testing too soon after exposure can miss infection during the window period.
Mm-hmm.
The type of test and its sensitivity. NAATs are more sensitive than rapid or older methods. Sample collection errors or testing from anatomical sites where the infection is not present. Biological variability, such as low bacterial load or infection in non-tested sites, such as the throat or the rectum. This is an ongoing problem. For her to just dismiss it is shockingly bad, even for the low standards I expect from her work.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I hope I'm never in the position to need to go get tested for gonorrhea, but at the same time, I feel like maybe you should test all the available holes, not just the one.
Right? Like, I mean, like...
If I was to be subject to it,
yeah.
I would understand that is the price I must pay,
right.
Is having all holes checked.
Yeah. It seems like a thing that should just occur.
Yeah. Even if somebody claims,
you're already in the office.
You're already in the office. Your pants are already down.
Yeah.
It's just
dangly bits are dangling.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you got to do, Doc.
Yeah.
Give me a course of treatment and send me on my way.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So,
here's the next one.
So I hope that makes sense for you guys. I know some of you guys are just listening to this, but if you go onto the Patreon and you're wondering how to read the full article, it's always on the right-hand side. So this is an interesting article to take a look at because First and foremost, it tells you right away that maternally transmitted gonorrhea represents a very modest portion of total morbidity for infants. It is of some interest that they were addressed before the major source of sexually transmitted disease was tackled. Primarily, this was due to the introduction and the efficacy of non-specific prophylactic therapy, again in parentheses, silver nitrate, in the newborn eye, available long before specific general therapy. Essentially, in every article that you begin to explore about gonorrhea and infants and their eyes, you will learn that it sounds like there was a very good solution, and that eventually they just stopped using silver nitrate, which is natural, and they just decided to prefer an antibiotic, which is really interesting to me, and I'm going to explain to you why. Again, they mentioned that Guy Creed of being the person that introduced the silver nitrate, and it resulted in a decrease of blindness all across, and they felt that they had really solved this. Now, to understand the present situation, you can look under here where it says gonorrhea trends. Basically, the reason why a lot of people were getting gonorrhea is because we had the big boom, the big baby boom in the late 60s and on through most of the 1970 decade. Gonorrhea increased throughout the United States. Similar increases were seen in Europe. The factors associated with this increase were demographic and behavioral. So this is just giving you a big background on why there was so much gonorrhea. People were having a lot of sex, a lot of children were being born, people were sexually active, and they weren't exactly practicing safe sex. So that's just something to remember. And again, it just should make you stop and think, okay, am I in this situation? Like, why is this doctor recommending this for me when you know as a pregnant person, a pregnant woman, let me say that, because I feel like now everyone's saying pregnant person, but you know that when you're pregnant, basically every single appointment you've got to submit to a urine sample, you're giving blood tests left and right, leading up into the moment that you give birth. I mean, you're never going to be more sure about your status when it comes to having STDs than when you're pregnant.
Yeah, about that. Candace is letting slip a telling thing about herself and possibly her friends here.
Yeah.
So, when a medical history for a patient is being done, the only people to get recommended screening throughout pregnancy for STIs are pregnant persons. I said persons, Candace, get over it. Pregnant persons that are either under age 25 or older women that have had multiple partners, and especially if they didn't use condoms regularly. I went to several sources for this, and I talked to several women that have had children over the years. All of them that said they had clean histories, they were tested at the beginning of their pregnancy when they first go to the doctor, and they're tested at the end before they give birth in optimal situations. There was no testing done
in between.
When they went to their weekly or monthly doctor visits, the only people that got major tested constantly were ones that had high-risk pregnancies. Now, like I said, that is not the recommended guideline, or that is the recommended guideline. When Candace was writing an advice and opinion column many years ago, before she became Red Pill Black, she proudly declared herself to be a woman that would fuck around. No shame, really, good for her. But getting blood work done as frequently as every doctor visit is not a common thing.
No.
I also consider the crowd she is in when I think about this. And for her crowd of people, especially if they eschew vaccines and stuff, they probably want to stay on top of any developments in their bodies. Seems like a shite trade-off.
Yeah.
Now, as in every episode, we get to the part where she goes through the FDA insert.
Of course.
Assuming that you're going to a doctor and you're not just winging it, and showing up for birth that day. And so, again, it's applying a treatment, a prophylactic to every single person as if they are the exact same when they're not. Now, before we go any further, I do want to take a look at the insert, right? It's important that we always take a look at the insert that is provided on government websites, so we can see exactly what is in erythromycin and also what they themselves say are the adverse events that you can expect. So let's open that up. And the first portion that I want to draw your attention to is indications and uses, because it's pretty clear here, if you look at that last paragraph, that it says that the indications and usage here are for infants born to mothers with clinically apparent gonorrhea. Right there. Could not be clearer on the insert here that they are saying that it is recommended and is indicated for use if the infant is being born to a mother with clinically apparent gonorrhea. Now, some of you guys listening to this podcast may be at a higher risk for gonorrhea. Some of you guys may know that you have gonorrhea. So if you're in that circumstance, then you're in a different circumstance than the majority of women, because only 1% of pregnant women have gonorrhea. Less than 1% of pregnant women have gonorrhea at the time that they're giving birth.
So the actual percentage is a range.
Yeah.
In the USA, the national average is 0.3%, but that isn't the whole story. The actual average can be as high as 10% in some parts of the country. And I feel like I have to point out again that this is an STI that might not present itself visually. In this case, the insert talks about it being apparent. Asymptomatic carriers exist. But Candace is also fucking lying about what the fucking insert fucking says, and this pisses me the fucking fuck off. It says, and I fucking quote, "For infants born to mothers with clinically apparent gonorrhea, intravenous or intramuscular injections of aqueous crystalline penicillin G should be given. A single dose of 50,000 units for term infants or 20,000 units for infants of low birth weight. Topical prophylaxis alone is inadequate for these infants." She only read the part about it being for mothers with apparent gonorrhea, not the rest.
Yeah, that
is the kind of dishonest shit she does.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, well, if it's only for mothers with, if you don't have apparent gonorrhea, then this shouldn't apply to your kid. No, fuck you, that's not what it says.
Yeah.
It says, and I will quote one more time, "For infants born to mothers with clinically apparent gonorrhea, intravenous or intramuscular injections of aqueous crystalline penicillin G should be given."
Mm-hmm.
That's more of the full quote,
Mm-hmm.
Fucking, oh my God. Because just doing that one thing could make someone who doesn't have it or is deciding not to get it, it gives them the opportunity to fuck around with their kid.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the whole fucking thing of should the apparent portion, it should only be applying if it's apparent that you have it. No. Because what if it's not apparent that you have it when you're having the child?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're either asymptomatic or you're, if you're either asymptomatic or B, it's a late bloomer.
Yeah.
Or maybe shit, you just like giving head. Who knows?
I mean, it's like, come on. Yeah. Like I said, the more she fights against this stuff, I have this rolling concept. I don't want to call it a theory.
Yeah.
It's just a concept in my head. It's not a concept of a plan. It's just a concept.
Yeah.
The concept I keep having, that I keep coming back to, is I think Candace,
mm-hmm.
given the crowd of people that she is around, the crowd of people that she married into, given her history as, being someone who wrote articles about, like I said, fucking around a lot.
Yeah.
Back in her liberal days, the concept that I have here that I can't quite distance myself from is the idea, and this is not an accusation in any way, but the idea that she is so hell-bent on saying that her children are perfect, her babies are perfect, there's nothing wrong with them, they shouldn't need all this stuff, and your babies are probably perfect, and they're not going to need all this shit. I can see where she would say all these things, based on the idea that there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's probably nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with me. And it's like, but what if there is?
Yeah.
You know, like, what if there is? And, God, it's just...
Like she's trying to...
Like she's desperately trying to deflect.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's being taken out on her children in this regard.
Yeah, if there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
But if there's anything wrong, and the kids get the blunt end of it, or, you know, this may be a thing why her and her husband, who they didn't really have much of a dating life before they got married. This could be another thing where he just was like, I just want to be a part of this, but I don't want to be a part of your life.
Yeah.
You know, for all we know, they could be doing IVF. You know, like that's the thing, is that the more I hear about their marriage, the more I'm like, y'all are fucked up. You know. So, next clip.
So it doesn't make sense to me why the other 99% are submitting their children to this. I want to also draw your attention to the adverse reactions. It says here, the most frequently reported adverse reactions are minor ocular irritations, redness, and hypersensitivity reactions. So essentially your eyes can get irritated. And what's important to note about this is that that's exactly what this is supposed to be stopping, right?
Wrong. No. This doesn't stop and is not intended to stop eye irritation. It is there to kill bacteria that may be present in the birth canal at the time of birth. It also acts to keep an infant from getting infected by gonorrhea or chlamydia present from the mother. It is not intended to stop eye irritation, nor does it claim to do so. Human eyes get irritated at any age. That's a fact of life. This is intended to lessen the chances that an eye infection will develop from bacteria.
Yeah. Not to mention that, I don't know if she's ever had, you know, something that's meant to topically kill bacteria before, but that shit stings for a minute. Like, applying alcohol to one's cut to make sure there's no bacteria in there makes the shit kind of itchy and a little irritated.
My favorite...
Using eye drops, period. Even just the normal, like, whatever the fuck's in the normal liquid ones. That are just meant to give you the fake tears so your eyes clean themselves.
I think it's just saline,
Yeah. Even using just pure saline drops fucking irritates the eyes. That's the goddamn point.
I mean, it can. It can. Like, I've had pretty good success out of them. Like, I didn't realize how gunked up my eyes were one day. I got some eye drops, and I was like, man, I am just, you know, like, it was a pollen-heavy day. You know, I had my windows down because it was nice regardless. But when I got myself some eye drops, like some Visine or something, I dropped it in, and I could feel, like, as I blinked, I could feel crap come out of my eyes down my face. Like, oh my God, like, I saw clearer instantly. You know, but I could feel, like, whatever shade was there.
Gone.
It was like, oh my Lord, it was something else.
One day I was having horrific, like, blurry vision. It was high pollen day back in Florida, and Mom managed to get me pinned down to do it because I hate anything going near my eyes, and like, even if I sit there and I go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I still go, fuck.
I did not do eye drops for my first 40 years of life. You could not get anything near my eyes. The horror of contact lenses, I will never understand. I will not.
I've watched.
I understand that people use them. For the people that it works for, great. I'm not in your crowd. I'll buy glasses when I need them. I use reading glasses every day. I'm totally fine with that. I cannot, for the life of me, go through putting contact lenses on my eyes. I can't do that.
I watched a friend of mine switch out his eye contacts.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, hang on one second. I gotta take these off and
Yeah.
put new ones on." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And I stood there. And I watched him pull out the case, and I watched him stick one to his ring finger, one to his pinky, and he took his middle and his index finger and just like scooped out the other ones out of his eyes and put the other two in. And I'm just like, "Oh, god damn, dude,
Yeah.
never do that again with me around, please." He's like, "What? I just pulled him out." I was like, "You just poked yourself in the eyes and then poked yourself in the eyes again. How are you not crying?"
Right.
He's like, I just do it on regular. Here, I'll do it again." And I was like, "No, just
No.
put the old ones, do
Yeah.
whatever you do."
Yeah.
But no.
Do the thing you have to do and do not involve me in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, God. So, next clip.
So this is supposed to be a prophylactic. Again, it's not going to stop the transfer of gonorrhea, but it's supposed to stop that ocular irritation that comes to children that are born of women that have gonorrhea. So it's just something to note that they're telling you that the solution kind of can potentially bring you back to the problem. But beyond anything, the most important thing here to me is just the fact that it is only being indicated here for women that have apparent gonorrhea. So I do not see a reason beyond actually having gonorrhea that any mother would just say, okay, it's totally fine to give my child this antibiotic ointment in their eye directly. That just doesn't make, to me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Okay, guys, so we're just going to pause there for a quick second, cut to a break, and then I want to talk to you guys about silver nitrate, which is mentioned. You've seen that twice, because the story of silver nitrate and its relative disappearance is really a story of big pharma corruption. And once you recognize the trends of big pharma and how corrupt it is and how they intentionally disappear all of these household solutions that work to solve things, then you will be better prepared to take care of your child and to ask more specific questions to your doctor in the long run. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Jesus fucking Christ. As already stated, it is not a solution that causes a problem it is there to solve. That is fucking absurd. It's Hegelian dialectic thinking, and as usual, it's being misapplied by an idiot. Candace is full out
I'm
lying.
sorry.
What?
What was that you just said?
Hegelian dialectic. I don't know the source. Let's explain
Okay.
this a little bit. Okay. It's like when you come up with a solution
Okay.
to a problem that you caused.
So, like, if
Like,
I
okay,
if I
if we
stabbed
suck-
myself
if-
in the hand and then I stitched myself back together, is that...
No, it's more like, they suck all the public funds out of an area.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna go through a lot of this in the next few years. Buckle up. You suck all the public funds out of an area. Let's say you take away the parks.
Yeah.
Right? Well, now you have a bunch of kids and adults, but mostly kids who were doing things at those parks.
Yeah.
They were playing basketball or ice skating or whatever. Mm-hmm. They were doing things at those parks. It was killing time for them. Good stuff, right?
Yeah.
You take away the public funding, you chain up the parks. Now what? Now you've got a bunch of restless people.
Mm-hmm.
If it's restless people in a poor or wealthy situation, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wealthy people can experience this too, but now you have people that are restless. They don't have a way to get their energy out. They're a little angry. This causes a problem that involves the police.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now the police are there to solve a problem that didn't exist before this public good went away.
Yeah.
That's like,
Okay.
yeah, and especially like if it's done with the mindset of, well, if we take this away, the people will react, and then we'll get the police involved,
And then we can
and
put
then
the
we
funding
can crack
on.
down on them, and we can do martial law and all that kind of shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a rolling process. The
So
Hegelian
it's-
dialectic. Yeah.
Okay, so it's create a problem and have the solution to the problem
Yeah. Well, the solution to the problem being worse.
than
Yeah.
the
like,
original.
Yeah, you've created the problem with the intention of having a worse solution.
Okay.
Yeah, involved,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like there's a lot more philosophy behind it, but that's basically it.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so. Yeah, Candace is full out lying as usual. And I think to me the single worst word crime she continues to commit is a notion that people come out of birth completely perfect. Like, the fuck they do. This entire notion has thousands of years of evolution that prove otherwise, with untold millions, possibly billions of humans being born with all sorts of problems. I mean, fucking A, what the fuck are genetic issues, but that which come from your own DNA transference and mixing? This is anti-science and anti-logic thinking that plays to the minds of people that think, even with their own admitted body flaws, that two people with known issues and family histories are going to somehow produce a perfect infant. That is utterly fucking absurd.
Yeah, and if that was the case, I'm the perfect absolute evolutionary human.
Right.
Scoliosis, heart problems, and lung problems occasionally.
Right. Candace absolutely went into her first ad break for Patreon. Just there. And it was the same ad we've already heard in prior episodes, as I said before.
That sucks.
So, moving on, Candace will now be wrong about silver nitrate.
Of course.
Alright guys, welcome back.
There we are.
Squish.
Alright guys, welcome back. So I want to use this segment to talk about silver nitrate, and it was essentially just disappeared by the FDA. So first and foremost, let's discuss what silver nitrate actually is, and it is a natural compound that is used as an anti-infective agent. Okay, so you can see that here on the NIH.gov website. If you're listening, I'm just going to read it to you pretty quickly, just the abstract here. It says that the use of silver for the treatment of various maladies or to prevent the transmission of infection dates back to at least 4000 BCE. Medical applications are documented in the literature throughout the 17th and 18th centuries. The bactericidal activity of silver is well established. Silver nitrate was used topically throughout the 1800s for treatment of burns, ulcerations, and infected wounds, and although its use declined after World War II and the advent of antibiotics, and then it goes on to tell you that this person, Fox, revitalized its use in the form of silver sulfadiazine in 1968. So again, the story is it was used for so much. It still is used for burns and infected wounds and things of that nature. But essentially, it started dramatically declining after they discovered antibiotics. And the reason for that is obviously because Big Pharma decided we have this product, it's better, let's start using it for everything. And the issue is that you can't really patent anything that is decisively a natural compound, right? So you can right now log on to Amazon and buy yourself a bottle of silver. You can buy yourself a bottle of colloidal silver. I'm a person that has colloidal silver. I take a tiny teaspoon of it every single day. And Big Pharma cannot own a patent to it, right? So
Okay. Several
things.
Several things to unpack here. First, silver nitrate and colloidal silver products can be patented, and many actually are. The basic item itself can't be patented, but the formulation of it can be patented, as well as the manufacture of the silver product if it is a new process. You cannot patent either nitrate or colloidal, but you can patent the method or the final product. So that's wrong. Since Candace has been almost constantly pregnant during the production of her body of work, it is interesting to note that colloidal silver can have harmful effects on a developing fetus and has no proven or known benefit to a pregnant mother. Both nitrate and colloidal are different products as well. They are not interchangeable in any sense. And silver nitrate happens to be FDA approved, while colloidal silver is not approved for healthcare use in any way whatsoever. No. It is approved in several makeup formulations where it is patented.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably use it for a nice silvery shine.
I named this next clip 45 Seconds of Straight Lies.
That becomes problematic for their financial incentives. And so they began this campaign in the 90s after realizing that a lot of people were preferring to use colloidal silver and forms of silver nitrate to antibiotics, and they asked the FDA to essentially just issue something that said, oh, we don't recommend colloidal silver. And so I want to actually show you what is said by the FDA about this. So it says here, if you look at this, FDA's in 1999, so after thousands and thousands and thousands of years of using colloidal silver, which, by the way, if you're wondering, colloidal silver is just a less concentrated form of silver nitrate.
Okay, so that was 45 seconds of straight lies. I cannot accept that she is merely ignorant of these things. Let's start with the idea that some nebulous big pharma company asked the FDA to look into colloidal silver. The FDA actually initiated its own review of these products, which it had the legal authority to do because a large number of products were on the open market claiming to have colloidal silver in them and making massive health claims that could not be backed up by evidence. And since we have already established that it can be toxic to the body, there was always a risk that a desperate person or population would overdose on something already proven bad at worst and ineffective at best for whatever their malady was. There was no official account of how many of these products were available. There was no official account of how many of these products were available, but the list had grown from several dozen products and makers to hundreds with the advent of widespread internet use. Claims were made that colloidal silver products could basically do anything, name any disease, malady, condition. Colloidal silver was marketed as a cure-all. Literally anything that you can think of, this was touted as a cure for it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, with zero evidence. Again, this was concerning to the FDA, given how toxic colloidal silver can be. Someone with, say, liver cancer, taking a colloidal silver pill or drink or rubbing a lotion on could really wreck their health and possibly their finances, especially if they trusted this cure-all instead of actual science. The tendency of such a person to overdo any recommended amount in an attempt to save their own life, I don't think I have to paint that picture further. This is the kind of thing the FDA found concerning, as well as colloidal silver being given to kids in place of vitamins, antibiotics, vaccines, or medicines. I don't much care for the idea of a snowball effect or a slippery slope, but this could have been bad. As for what she said near the end of the clip, colloidal silver has not been used for thousands of years. It was first documented in 1891. Silver products of various types have been touted as health cures for at least 6,000 years, but colloidal silver wasn't a thing until 1891. You would think a fangirl like her would know this basic fact. Finally, as we may have already discussed, colloidal silver is not a less concentrated form of silver nitrate. They are fundamentally different substances, both chemically and in how they behave in the body. Colloidal silver is a suspension of microscopic metallic silver particles, and sometimes some ionic silver in water. It does not contain silver in a dissolved ionic form, but rather it is tiny particles that remain suspended in the liquid. Silver nitrate is a chemical compound, capital A, lowercase g, capital N, capital O, 3, in which silver exists as positively charged ions, the Ag, dissolved in water paired with nitrate ions, that's your NO3. It is a true solution, not a suspension, and it is chemically reactive in ways that colloidal silver is not. The two are not interchangeable. Silver nitrate is a much more chemically reactive thing and is used in medicine for its potent antimicrobial and caustic properties. Colloidal silver is less reactive and contains metallic silver particles, with typically less than 10% existing as ionic silver. Colloidal silver is not a less concentrated form of silver nitrate. It is a different substance altogether. One is a suspension of metallic particles. The other is a dissolved ionic compound. The fact that people just accept this bullshit still astounds me and pisses me off. She's about to lie a lot more about it, though. What's up?
What I find funny about all of this is, I as a DM for a D&D campaign should have looked into this first, but I'm slowly starting to realize that silver nitrate would have been a better option to have my players collect for something they're doing than colloidal silver, which is funny because only one of them knew what colloidal silver was. The other three were like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, how do y'all not know what the fuck colloidal silver is? And then I explained to them what it was, and they were collecting it because of this, layman's terms wise, mist monster thing infected them all in their sleep, and the only way to get rid of it was to repel it with silver. Well, if it's inside their system, the only logical way they could figure was with liquid silver, and my brain just went, oh, well, we can use colloidal silver as that stand-in. But I'm starting to realize that I probably should have gone with silver nitrate, because that being more chemically reactive would have maybe been better.
Oh, we're going to get into why colloidal silver is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep. The inner hillbilly has come to the surface. Okay. Next clip.
Right? It admits openly that its colloidal silver is a mineral. Colloidal silver products were once available as over-the-counter drug products, but in 1999, the FDA ruled that they aren't safe. Like they're not safe. And if you're going to be giving colloidal silver, even though we were just giving it to you from behind the counter in 1999, so for 10 years of my life, I was born in 1989. So for 10 years of my life, you could just walk into CVS and say, "Hey, I'll take the colloidal silver." But then suddenly they said, "Oh, I know this has always been available, but never mind. Now it's unsafe." And they acknowledge that it can kill certain germs by destroying proteins, which is why it was previously used in wound dressings, but silver has no known function in the body and is not an essential mineral. So, and then it says this sentence, taking silver by mouth can cause the skin to turn a permanent bluish color. We're going to address that line momentarily. It can also cause brain function problems. Okay, challenge for any person that is listening to this, find me the study that shows you that it can turn your skin a permanent bluish color if you take colloidal silver by mouth.
Challenge accepted, Candace.
There's also a man who's famous for being a blue man.
Oh, we're going to get to him.
And his blue family.
He's in the script. We're going to get to him. Oh, yeah.
Also, I said blue man, and now that fucking song's playing in my head.
Well, here we go. Challenge accepted, Candace. First, the only thing she said in there that was FDA approved was that colloidal silver, and in fact any silver products, can kill certain microorganisms by disrupting the protein chains that keep them alive. The part about it being a behind-the-counter product that you could just ask for was weirdly false, because the products were on the shelves and in some places still are. You can go to CVS or Walgreens or other pharmacy websites and buy the stuff in wound care creams and the like right now. What changed was the labeling and marketing it as an internal medicine product. But moving on from that, Candace issued a challenge. And multiple clinical case studies and medical reviews have documented agyria, a bluish-gray discoloration of the skin and mucous membranes, as a direct result of ingesting colloidal silver. Here are some case reports I found. A 58-year-old woman developed generalized agyria after ingesting 1 liter of colloidal silver daily for 16 months.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Skin biopsies confirmed silver deposits in the tissues, and her blood silver concentration was markedly elevated. Number 2. A 73-year-old man developed diffuse gray discoloration of his face and hands after 5 years of colloidal silver ingestion. Biopsies revealed silver granules in the skin and colon mucus, and elevated silver levels were found in his body fluids. Number 3, a 38-year-old man presented with blue-gray skin after ingesting high doses of colloidal silver for 10 months. The case review included a discussion of silver absorption, tissue deposition, and the cumulative dose required to cause agyria. Additional reports describe agyria following use of colloidal silver proteins and other silver-containing compounds as alternative medicine or antiseptics. Reviews in medical literature, such as stat pearls and dermatology journals, confirm that generalized agyria in modern times is most often seen in individuals consuming colloidal silver as an alternative remedy. The mechanism involves systemic absorption of silver, which then deposits in the skin and other organs, leading to the characteristic skin discoloration. So there is strong, well-documented evidence, including multiple case studies and medical reviews, proving that oral ingestion of colloidal silver can cause agyria in humans. I will be linking to several case studies in the show notes. 6 in all.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
See, I only knew about the fucking blue man.
Oh, he's coming up. His name is Paul. His name was Paul Carrison.
Oh, is he dead now?
Oh, he quite dead. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's unfortunate.
So, yeah.
He seemed like a decent person.
Yeah, he wasn't.
No?
No, we'll get to him.
Okay.
Next clip.
And I will issue that challenge to you guys. Again, I want you to find an actual scientific study that shows this, and I'm going to show you some studies that actually debunk that.
No, you're not.
Then goes on to say, colloidal silver has been used for infections, hay fever. Hay fever, for those of you that are wondering what hay fever is, it is when you are, you get conjunctivitis. You can get conjunctivitis that's related to a hay fever when you're exposed to like a ton of dust and your allergies go crazy and your eyes get pink and small. I get them all the time. So it's been used to treat hay fever and many other conditions, but there is no good scientific evidence to support any of its uses. No good scientific evidence. We've been doing it for thousands of years, but in 1999 we said, nope, no good scientific evidence. Everyone's been using this. We just showed you the scientific evidence that was established by this guy. They just told you that they were able to decrease by 97% infants that were suffering from GON, but nope, there's no scientific evidence to support this once the FDA makes a big pharma decision and realizes that they want to profit.
I just want to scream sometimes, but I often script these in libraries.
Smart decision, I'd say. It keeps your vocal cords intact.
Yeah. Usually I do this in well-walled study rooms, but it would still be frowned upon. Anyway, this is Candace equating colloidal silver and silver nitrate again, but she managed to be wrong about something else, as hay fever is not conjunctivitis. It is known as allergic rhinitis. A symptom of it can be allergic conjunctivitis if it directly affects the mucous membranes of the eyes. That is a common malady with it, but it is not universal, so it's kind of a subset of symptom. Anyway, it's not the same fucking thing. Again, this took seconds to nail down and read about in a simple search. This bullshit, I'll remind you all, was on the Daily Wire as paid content for subscribers. We found out way early on in this show that the Daily Wire had or has fact checkers.
Really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I cannot fathom how hard or how easy that job must have been if they were just there to get a paycheck. Because there is no way this wouldn't have flagged their system. It's a simple mistake, but the fact that it existed is proof enough for me that fact-checking at the Daily Wire is a sweet fucking job if you have no scruples. The FDA didn't profit from this. They spent money across several years to strike this bullshit down. The FDA is not a business, it's a branch of the federal government. Which is more fucking absurd shit. Mm-hmm. Next, Candace is going to get into a story that I have reason to believe is somewhat true, based on other stories she has said in a similar vein. It takes her a while to get through it, though. This is 4.5 minutes long.
Jesus.
So here's a personal story for you. So my son, I am not anti-medicine. I am a person that believes in medicine. I honestly believe in taking it only when you really need it. I try to avoid just taking pills for the sake of taking pills, and I think that's a good decision. But
okay,
my
agreed.
son, who is never sick,
That's fair.
during a tornado months ago, I think he must have been, he was 7 months. We all went down to the basement because the sirens went off and it had to have been 3 a.m. in the morning. And so I'm holding him and he's awake. And in our basement, there's just a ton of construction being done and there's so much dust. And dust is a major allergy inducer for me in particular. I have asthma and I have allergies. And if I'm exposed to dust, my entire system becomes inflamed. Well, I guess like mother, like son. So we get up from this basement after being in there for 45 minutes after the sirens stopped. and instantly my eyes just started going in flames, and I went into hay fever mode, and they got super small. But I had these old drops, so I instantly went upstairs because I hate that itchy eye feeling. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. For those of you that get hay fevers, I had the itchy eye feeling, and I went and I got these drops that I had. But obviously in my head I went, these drops are super strong and they're not meant for babies. My baby went to sleep, woke up a few hours later for breakfast, and his eyes were shrunken, and he just had so much gunk under his eyes. Like, it was just, they were like crusted shut. There was so much of it. Like, he actually could not open one of his eyes when he woke up because he just had like strings of mucus pus looking stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? This is crazy. So obviously the first thing I did was text the doctor and said, I don't know what to do here. You know, he barely opened his eyes. It's very clearly a hay fever. He was exposed to a lot of dust last night. We were in the basement in a construction site for 45 minutes. My eyes are going crazy too. And my doctor said, oh, I'll call him in a prescription for, you guessed it, erythromycin. Unfortunately, this is more divine intervention because I was going to go get it. I didn't think anything of it. I just didn't want to see his poor shrunken eyes, and you know, they were obviously very itchy and irritating him, and like I said, he could hardly open them. And we went to CVS, and divine intervention, they didn't have it. They were out of it. So I'm going, I got to give him something. And fortunately, at that time, we had a nanny that was helping us out on the weekends, and she's one of those people that has been around and seen everything. She's got something like, I'm not even kidding, 24 grandchildren, and she's super organic and natural, and just nothing phases her ever. She takes one look at your kid. You know these types I'm talking about. They could just take one look at your kid, tell you where they saw it, what it is, and how to fix it. It's the reason why you love grandmas so much, right? We just love grandmothers because they just have this eternal wisdom. And she looks at him and she just says, put some silver on it. Just like that. She's like, oh, just put a little silver on it. Put a little aloe vera on it. Like, he'll be fine. And because I could not get to the steroid, I did exactly that. So I have silver. I have colloidal silver. I went to the cabinet, started dabbing it on his eyes again. I take a teaspoon of this every day, so I knew that this was not going to burn his eyes. Actually, I think I tried it on you, Savannah, first. I was like, this doesn't burn you, right? I can't mess up my makeup. Does this burn your eyes? She was like, no, it's fine. Then I gave it to him. He was totally fine. The next morning he woke up, and it had to have been like, I don't know, 60% clearer than it had been the day before. And I was like, wow, what a huge difference. And so I bought aloe vera the next day and just dipped it into his eye throughout the day along with the silver. And CVS again sent a message and said that it was still unavailable. I think that we called them and they said it was still unavailable. So that's 2 days, no steroids. He's still getting a little bit of gunk, but it's much better. I promise you by the third day, it was entirely clear. We did not at all need to go to CVS and get this antibiotic that would have been in his eye. And it was one of those moments for me where, despite the fact that I had made the decision to decline vaccines, it really kind of woke me up to the fact that I was extremely undereducated when it came to basic things around the house that could help my son. I mean...
Okay, before I get into it, go ahead.
Was that a fucking staff member in the back going, that was me that you put the colloidal silver into the eye of first?
Her long-suffering staff member, whatever her name is, yes, Savannah. Yeah, Savannah is still with her today, as far as I'm aware. So is her lawyer from that period.
Part of me wants to feel bad for Savannah, but at the same time, I'm like, at this point, you're subjecting yourself to it intentionally. You have to be. Yeah, There's no way you're just doing it for a paycheck at this point, because everybody else split off with their paychecks already.
Yeah, she has a crew of about 5 people that I'm aware of. Mm-hmm. Savannah has been with her since at least the Daily Wire. Yeah. Like, I think she's her production assistant or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, she's been around for a minute.
Yeah, God.
For a minute, yeah.
Long enough to trust her enough to put random fucking eye drops in her eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a trip. First, the tornado that struck near her place on March 3rd, 2020 could have been either an EF3 or 4.
Okay.
The tornadoes as a cluster that night did a fuck ton of damage to Nashville and the surrounding area. Hiding in the basement, even under construction, was probably the best idea. That said, there was also a nationwide shortage of erythromycin at the time. Unrelated, but it wasn't available in a lot of places. That absolutely does not excuse her further action, though. Pouring colloidal silver into the baby boy's eyes to clear the infection or dust or whatever is medically one of the worst choices she could have made for this child, beyond being an anti-vax idiot. The second worst thing was putting aloe vera near his eyes. That is something that even adults should not do, but especially not to infants. I can understand not wanting to see her kids suffer, but I want to remind everyone, for what seems like the 1,000th time, this is a wealthy family. They have the only superpower in this world: money.
Mm-hmm.
With it, they have access to literally everything that could have actually helped this kid if erythromycin was not available. But as we have already seen in previous episodes, she has claimed to use colloidal silver in his eyes as well last year when they visited Kanye West in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that said, it is hard to believe that the child having allergic conjunctivitis would have been prescribed over the phone erythromycin. In such a case as this, the medical advice I pulled from several actual sources did not suggest erythromycin for this. Because for one thing, that is not the intended use of it, and for the second thing, it has no history of working in this regard. And third, I didn't put it in the script, but it's not a fucking steroid.
No.
It's not a fucking steroid.
No.
It has no steroid function. It's not what it does.
No. It's a fucking antibiotic, not a steroid.
Yeah. She kept saying steroid and it kept pissing me off. But anyway, the recommended solution in such a case as this are cool compresses with a cool damp cloth around the eyes and the eyelids.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial tears that are age appropriate, and gentle cleaning to remove any crust buildup. That's it. I find it fucking absurd and unbelievable that her doctor would suggest an antibiotic for a readily solvable problem, and I find it extra hard to believe that she could not have had baby-grade artificial tears sent her way.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking absurd. If she actually poured colloidal silver into her child's eyes to deal with this issue, I have nothing but fucking anger for it.
Not to mention that, she took it on the word of a fucking nanny.
Yeah, well, I'm reminded of, and it's not in the material here, but I think it might be the same nanny that she had mentioned last year. Candace had said that she wanted to start growing her own food. Okay, all right. I'm a gardener. I get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone should.
Yeah.
If there's a fucking vegetable or whatever you like, most of the time you can grow the shit pretty easily.
Yeah.
Get some.
I mean, shit. I've got a friend who's her mother grows fucking squash and tomatoes in the side yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's something that you consume on a regular basis and it's a plant, the odds are, in most areas you can grow that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Candace said, and this is me paraphrasing from her material back last year, but she said something to the effect of, she bought some seeds and she asked the lady, okay, so what do we do next? And she's like, you put it in the ground. Now, that seems simple enough,
Mm-hmm.
but I can tell you from my experience with attempting to grow squash back in Florida.
Yeah, I remember that.
The squash plants got big like they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
They do. The plants themselves get ridiculously wide and a little tall. Like I want to say that mine got up to 3 feet tall and they were about 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
The problem was we didn't have enough magnesium worked into the soil.
Yeah.
They were never going to make squash, and they never did.
No. Well, they did.
Yeah.
Once they got into the woods.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because I remember that we called it the wandering squash plant because it started in the box garden.
Yeah.
And then wandered its way out, down, and into the wood line.
Through the vines. Yeah. Because it sent out its vines, and we just kind of let it go because I was like, well, we're not going to get anything out of this. And I moved over at that point to Asian eggplant,
mm-hmm.
which took off wonderfully well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, when when we'd gone into that section of the woods just to see about clearing it out and all that, and we found the hornet's nest, and we were like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, on the way to the hornet's nest was the squash.
Yeah.
And they weren't big.
Yeah.
But it did have little vegetables on it, and then we found the hornet's nest and decided just not to go into that section of the woods again.
Yeah. Well, the squash. Yeah, like it. I think it was probably moving out to where it could get the nutrients that it needed.
Yeah, acting like tree roots to find where the actual stuff was it needed.
Well, I ran the problem by a master gardener, and she was like, okay, well, what's in your stuff? And she goes, well, without a soil sample, my help for you is going to be limited. But it sounds like if you're getting the plant. But you're not getting the fruit, it sounds like you have a magnesium problem, and that's a big problem here. And I was like, okay, well, how can I fix that? She goes, get some Miracle-Gro. Okay. I didn't feel like doing that. We were running a very organic, very clean operation, and I just did not want to do that. I had other plants, I had fucking tomato and okra and peppers and all kinds of shit. I was like, next time, but not now, because we were also maybe a month or so away from like the squash dying. Like squash does not stay around forever. So I was like, fuck this. Yeah. And that's when I gave up on it and I let it go, and I, gave my attention to the other plants. But this is the same lady, I think, because she's described her before as a grandmotherly type, who was like, you put the seed in the ground. It's like, okay, that's some old world wisdom and stuff, but that doesn't apply to every plant.
No.
And, you've presumably offered to help her do this, so.
Unless Candace was missing, the I hope Nanny told the steps and she was just, missing it in her recounting of it, because or
the lady just has no time for her bullshit.
That's what I was thinking and about to say. Or she just has no time for her bullshit, and it's just like, you put it in the ground, what do you think you do with it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, next clip.
What if CVS and all pharmacies broke down? What do you know about basic plants and basic, treatments that exist within your house that you have available that can solve things? And I feel like we've lost that wisdom as we've become this increasingly technological society. We've lost that wisdom of the things that are at home. Whether it's planting things around the house. I mean, planting things in your backyard and knowing what's medicinal for your children. I suddenly made a shift, and I said, I actually want to learn this stuff. I want to know. I mean, Big Pharma learned from natural sciences, right? It wasn't like they just one day just started being chemists. I mean, they learned from natural scientists by learning about plants and the things that they saw that were being used to treat people. And I don't want us to lose that knowledge. So anyways, I had been using, I guess you could say, for the last year, colloidal silver. And one day I was on Instagram and people were asking me questions, and this was during the phase of COVID when fact checkers were not allowing me to discuss medical treatments or natural treatments or vitamins in any capacity, because they were just, the narrative was only vaccines can help with COVID. If you said you took a Tylenol and your COVID headache went away, you were being deplatformed. And during that time, someone had asked me, and I shared this story about what are some, natural remedies around the house that I use, and somebody said, do you use colloidal silver? And I said, yes, I use colloidal silver because I do, and that's the truth. And I answered that one sentence, and I said that one sentence, and I was shocked the next morning when I woke up and these articles were being written about me. Again, we were not discussing COVID treatments at all. And yet these articles were written claiming that I was embracing some fringe quack cure. Here it is, the Daily Beast, known to be among the scummiest, in my opinion, in terms of publications. They have it flagged under disinformation and said that Candace Owens tells fans to take quack cure that turns skin blue.
Colloidal COVID Candace, y'all. So to start, the CDC itself said during the main phase of COVID, and since, that taking over-the-counter medication like Tylenol to lessen the severity of symptoms was fine, and they encouraged it as long as people were not overdosing.
Yeah.
No one was being deplatformed for that. They were being deplatformed for saying anything was a cure during that time, including, of course, telling people that things like ivermectin were the cure for COVID.
What?
Yeah, that happened a lot. That is such a... Yeah.
Ivermectin?
Yes, ivermectin, yes. Thing we used to give the animals occasionally. Yeah. That was being pushed as a COVID cure. Places like Tractor Supply were having people show them photos of them with their horses before they would sell them ivermectin.
Jesus.
This was a thing that you could just walk in a Tractor Supply and buy for the longest time.
Yeah, I think
Just like fish penicillin and the other shit.
I think I actually remember because we needed to give it to one of the critters.
Yeah.
And Mom was just like, well, we'll just go down to Tractor Supply and get it. And we got down there and we asked about it. And I think the first time we asked about it, we were told it was sold out. And we were like, well, okay. You know,
fine.
It's that time of the year, of course.
Yeah.
And then we came back like a couple weeks later and we showed up. And it was there behind a locked plexiglass case. And we asked the Tractor Supply associate, like, hey, we need some of that. And they were like, for what reason? Like, to give it to our animals. Why the fuck else?
Yeah.
Have you not been on the internet the past couple of days?
Yeah.
Because we when we got home, you know, Mom was like, this is some bullshit. Like, we didn't get it because we weren't able to because we didn't have our proof that they needed.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, this is some bullshit. And she looked it up to see what was going on. And then I think she had you look it up, too, to make sure that it was solid. And it was people shooting up with it. She's like,
people...
what the fuck?
People, like, eating it. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, people eating it. Alex Jones on InfoWars ate spoons of it on camera. Yeah.
You know, the amount of things that I wish would end the man.
Well, that had... It's not really dangerous to you, but it's not going to help you with COVID. That's not what it's for. Ivermectin specifically in humans is a cure for river blindness.
Yeah.
You know, like you're swimming in a river, you've got fucking bacteria, parasites in your eyes. If you take it, it can cure that.
Yeah.
Like the people that discovered it, that discovered its formulation and its use, they got Nobel Prizes.
Yeah.
Because river blindness is a thing for people that live on like the Amazon and the Ganges and all these other rivers.
Yeah.
You know, around the developing world. This is a real issue for them. Well, ivermectin is almost free to make. Like it doesn't take much really.
No.
And
that's why it was so easy and cheap to get from Tractor Supply.
Yeah, you could get a tube of it for like $10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and because it has good beneficial effects in animals like horses, it's, you know, like apple flavored and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, stuff their horse brain is already geared for.
Shit, that's the powdered shit, isn't it?
No, ivermectin's like in a tube. It's like a toothpaste. Yeah, it's like a paste.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was getting it confused with liquid, the fucking penicillin.
Oh, the liquid. Yeah. That was another one that people were going off about.
Yeah, it was penicillin that we needed, not ivermectin. Yeah.
Well, there's also fish penicillin that I had a boss at one of my old jobs who he grew up with an anti-vax mom. So he knew all of these little things that you could get from like supply stores.
Yeah.
And he was really sick one day, and he's like, man, is there like a supply store around here? And I was like, yeah, there's like a Tractor Supply like a few miles down the road. He looked it up. He's like, oh, good. He's like, do you think they'll have fish penicillin? I was like, well, I know they do, but why do you need that? And he was like, oh, well, you know, I'm sick, and that stuff helps me. He's like, I know how to dose it. I was like, all right, dog. Yeah, I didn't know what to say. It would have never occurred to me. But as far as I understand, he took it. He got better. Okay. You know, but yeah. Anyway, so
not saying everybody should, but
yeah, yeah. You know, like I get it. So yeah, no one was being deplatformed for saying that over-the-counter stuff would help you. They were being deplatformed for saying anything was a cure at the time. And we talked about the ivermectin. But as for the headline she read, she did read it correctly.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, good job, Candace. According to the article, though, she didn't respond to a request for comment when they asked her.
Well, then that doesn't exactly help her fucking case, now does it?
No. It quotes her in the article, which I will be including in the links in the episode description. It quotes her as saying that she takes a teaspoon of colloidal silver every day and more when she is sick. It goes on to say, and I quote, "As little as that 1 teaspoon of silver a day could be enough to cause agyria, depending on the concentration of the silver solution. According to medical research, a 56-year-old man who took a teaspoon every day for, quote, allergy and cold medication, end quote, noticed that his fingernails were turning blue." So, yeah, depending on the concentration of silver, if this is remotely true, Candace could be doing real damage to herself and her developing children in her body when she is pregnant. Now, for the next bit, I searched several news websites for information on whether or not she called it a cure. She did not say that colloidal silver was a cure for COVID-19.
Okay.
And no one claimed that she did. Most websites gave their own versions of the horror of this stuff, combined with the Daily Beast article that they would often link back to, by the excellent Will Summer. She goes on to actually read portions of the article.
Wow, so much here that is just unbelievably dishonest. I never told them that anything was a cure. I didn't even tell them the story at that time about everything that had happened with Georgie. I told them that I take 1 teaspoonful per day, 1 teaspoon, and I never encourage anybody to take it because I don't think that's my role. I'm not a doctor and I know what trouble you can get into, but they were so against any sort of prophylaxis treatments for anything being talked about during the time of COVID that they just completely smeared me. If you go down in this article, you can see they actually quote exactly what I said. I said, yes, colloidal silver, Owen said in the video. I take colloidal silver every single day. I love colloidal silver. That's a great one. That is another one that people probably know nothing about. I completely stand by that. It's me telling you something that's actually true. I take a teaspoon of colloidal silver. I do love it. And it's probably something that not a lot of people know about. So this, again, they don't even accuse me, once you get to the guts of the article, of making a recommendation. They just state what I actually said, and then they just kind of attach me to other people. They say Owens and others have praised preventative use of colloidal silver as a way to stave off illness. Colloidal silver has no valid medical purpose and plenty of potential dangers. And then, in extreme cases, according to the Mayo Clinic, colloidal silver can cause seizure or organ problems. Owens didn't respond to a request for comment because why would I? And then they say that its most famous side effect is agyria. I hope I'm saying that right. A condition that turns users' skin a bluish gray color. Okay. That, again, completely ridiculous that they use this sentence that colloidal silver has no valid medical purpose. So let's just pause right here and debunk that one sentence, because as I just showed you, you hear silver nitrate being mentioned, they're telling you how effective it was in all of these articles that I just showed you that are present and available for you on government websites. I mean, it has been used for thousands of years. Colloidal silver, again, is just a different concentrated, a less concentrated form of silver nitrate, which is still used today by doctors for tons of different things. It's in so many different products, and I encourage you to look this up yourself. But let's first and foremost just debunk that one sentence, no valid, has no valid uses. So what we're looking at here is another document that is available for you on nih.gov, and we're just going to take a look at the abstract here.
Did she just say... Did
she say Mayo Clinic?
Mayo Clinic. I heard that right.
She did, yeah. Yeah, I brushed up against that the first time I heard it too, yeah.
Okay, I'm not...
I've never heard anyone call it the Mayo Clinic. It's always the Mayo Clinic. Everyone in my entire life, I've only ever heard one person call it the Mayo Clinic, and it's fucking Candace Owens right there in that clip. It's spelled M-A-Y-O.
I don't know where...
We all have called it the Mayo Clinic.
I don't know where she got...
I don't know.
And it can't be from her husband, because my British friend has referred to it as the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then proceeded to call me a twat.
Yeah.
So, it's...
Yeah.
There's no way that...
Did he call you a twat or a yank twat?
Just a twat.
See, I'm disappointed. Not only could he have called you a yank twat, he could have called you a twatish yank.
Oh, yeah.
Which would, or like, God. Like, I thought the British were possessed of the mind of creative insults.
Well,
I thought that was their one specialty.
Well, he does have some creative insults, just that I don't think I earned it at the time.
Ridiculous. Everyone's earned creative insults. So, before she gets into that, I wanted to say again that these silver products, nitrate and colloidal, are not the same things. Not even close.
Mm-mm.
Distinctly different.
Vastly different.
But Candace does seem totally sold on this wrong idea. Let's allow her to continue.
The abstract reads, the use of silver to control infections was common in ancient civilizations. In recent years, this material has resurfaced as a therapeutic option due to the increasing prevalence of bacterial resistance to antimicrobials. Yeah, that's pretty much what happens if you keep taking antibiotics. As you guys know, they don't recommend a course treatment of antibiotics beyond, I think, something like 12 days because you can actually develop bacterial resistance. So now they're renewing their interest in colloidal silver and silvers, full stop. It goes on to say, this renewed interest has prompted research to investigate how the antimicrobial properties of silver might be enhanced, thus broadening the possibilities of antimicrobial applications. So the idea that silver has had no medical usage is just completely ridiculous, and it just should not be allowed for people to be able to lie this boldly. And when this happened, I did have my lawyer send a letter out to the Daily Beast, but as you guys know, within America, it's very difficult when you're a public figure because of the New York Times versus Sullivan case. They can lie on you. They can pretty much say whatever they want as long as they back it up with, well, we thought it was true at the time that we wrote it, no matter what harm it causes to you. Even this, pretending that I would ever recommend a quack cure for anything, but it is actually them that is being so fundamentally dishonest, and the reason is because Big Pharma has it out for silver. Again, I challenge you to look at all of the studies. I mean, colloidal silver has just been used for so long. It's entirely crazy, actually crazy, for us to pretend that colloidal silver doesn't have any functions or any medical usages. There's just so much evidence against that statement.
Okay, so before she goes on, I want to address this set of claims. First, hi Noah. Good luck shutting us down, buddy. Moving on. Silver nanoparticles, which have the proper name of capital A, underscore G, capital N, capital P, so AGNP, have been the subject of serious research going back to 2002 at the least. They are made the same way as colloidal silver. And they do show a way to possibly improve antibiotics with a whole ton of caveats. I went down the rabbit hole on this and found some interesting stuff about it that is also in no way hopeful and does not bode well for anyone pushing this as evidence that colloidal silver is actually good for you. I'll be linking an article from the NIH in the show notes. Anyway, the crux of the matter is that AGNP is derived in a similar way to colloidal silver, and it is more controlled as to the size of the particles. In this case, nanoparticles of silver. That's the NP in there. Okay. So it's AG for silver, NP for nanoparticles.
Okay.
However, all the health risks are the exact fucking same.
Then what's the fucking point?
With AGNP being only slightly better because it is more controlled in production and used by researchers.
Okay.
All the health risks are the same, including organ failure and agyria.
What?
None of this information is hidden, but very few people boast about their fails, especially in science. So I don't see why Noah would have been summoned for this bullshit, since they didn't misquote her in the article. Just typical Candace crap from a free speech absolutist. Next up.
Okay, so now let's take a look at that other claim that's in the Daily Beast article, which is that it can turn your skin blue, which is one of these bizarre propaganda efforts, big pharma propaganda efforts that has very little evidence. And so I'm going to show you evidence to the exact contrary, again, available on the NIH.gov website. This, for those of you that are interested, is the colloidal silver that I take, and it just says dietary supplement. It's the only way that it can be marketed since the FDA's 1999 decision. You can't say that it prevents anything or it's prophylactic for anything. Even though they did it for thousands of years, you have to just market it now as a dietary supplement. I purchased this from, a reputable place. This is not something that I made at my house. You can buy this on Amazon. So, it's clearly not safe for, I'm assuming they wouldn't just allow you to buy it in the open market. I didn't go to some weird place and get this. I just take it as a supplement every day. A teaspoon of it.
Why does her making the claim of, well, I didn't make this at home, just sound like the...
Oh, wait till we get there.
I don't know if it's the redneck hillbilly in me of, now, I didn't do this at home, but there's a warehouse down the street, Jimmy.
Wait till we get there.
Oh, God.
So, Sovereign Silver brand Bioactive Silver Hydrosol.
Okay.
So, usually I put these through an audio process. But for this one, she doesn't say the name of the brand. So I had to pull the video and watch this part.
Oh, God.
For one thing, she has a really shit home studio at this time. It was her in a dark room with a projector behind her, like the kind they might use in a classroom, which might have been the entire point. I don't know. Anyway, the name of this brand is Sovereign Silver brand Bioactive Silver Hydrosol. And I had to do some work to really see it in full on the video. Like, the camera's not good, either. I had to pause, screenshot, and zoom in.
I thought she said they got a new camera.
I mean, they probably did. I don't know. Maybe, look, if this camera was better than the last one was an actual potato. It's not good. So, like I said, I had to pause, screenshot, and zoom in. Very first world problem. Anyway, I'd like to mention that Candace is not taking colloidal silver. This type of product is technically a colloidal silver, but it is a silver hydrosol. The basic difference between them is purity. Colloidal silver can have a purity as low as 13%, but a silver hydrosol like this can be anything above 96% pure.
Okay.
In this case, the company claims to have 99.99% purity, and the only claimed ingredients are silver and purified water. Also, the recommended daily dose is exactly 1 teaspoon per day, with up to 7 teaspoons in a day if a person is sick. But even at 7 teaspoons, a person is still under EPA guidelines for ingesting silver. There are more things to note here. Silver is not a required metal for body health, unlike, say, iron. And even this lower and more pure amount of silver can build up in the body. It just may take longer than colloidal silver would due to smaller size and purity. It still builds up in the organs and tissues of the body. It is still highly unsafe and poses serious health risks for no actual benefit, since silver buildup can actually affect the performance of medicines and antibiotics. I considered linking to this product on Amazon, but in the interest of public safety, I'm not going to do that. I've given you the name. You can find it if you fucking want to. Next up.
An NIH.gov available study that you guys could take a look at where they decided to evaluate the acute toxicity of colloidal silver nanoparticles. How do they do this? They decided to give a ton of it to guinea pigs. And when I say a ton of it, I'm talking about 500 times the amount that is available in this, right? So 500 times given to a tiny little guinea pig. And you can take a look at this and assess all the numbers yourself, and I'm just going to give you their indications and the results of this study. It says, in acute eye irritation and corrosion study, no mortality and toxic signs were observed when various doses of colloidal silver were instilled in guinea pigs. eyes during a 72-hour observation period. So I'll say that again, in looking at their eyes being irritated, which is something that they purport and claim. There was no mortality and toxic signs observed when various doses of colloidal silver were instilled in guinea pigs' eyes during a 72-hour observation period. And then you can skip down and see, in summary, these findings of all toxicity tests in this study suggest that colloidal silver could be relatively safe when administered to oral, eye, and skin of the animal models for short periods of times, right? So this was tested on animals, of course, and they could not find an amount, 500 times what I'm taking, they could not find an amount in which this was toxic for their oral, their eye, or their skin. So take a look at that study and then weigh it against the Daily Beast reporter, who I'm sure has an absolute zero background in science or anything, but they get to just write stuff on the internet because why not? That's what journalism is nowadays, finding college graduates that just want to write stuff on the internet and say things about people that they hate to make them look like crazy quacks, when I just said that I take it. I do take it. That's the truth, and I'm not going to be weird about that. I find there's nothing wrong with taking colloidal silver unless, thousands of years of what they've been telling us to do and what they've offered behind the counter as recent as 1999, was all quack and fringe. Clearly it wasn't. It's just FDA decided, hey, we want to make a little more money on steroids, and so now this is the new thing to say, and the journalists just get in line and write whatever it is. That helps Big Pharma, which funds a lot of these journalists, as we know.
The fucking teapot calling the kettle black right there.
Yeah, well...
This, the fucking... They'll take anybody straight out of college with a...
Yeah. Yeah. I'm linking to this really short study she mentioned. I tried to dig further into it, but there isn't much to dig into. It was basically a study on the short-term effects of colloidal silver on small mammals. As noted, over a 72-hour period, no adverse effects were seen.
Okay.
With one exception. When it was poured directly into their eyes, the eyes were irritated, but it cleared up within 24 hours.
Okay.
The study concluded that under short exposure, animals would be fine to study this on. That all said, I will be linking to another study that is titled, Developmental Exposure to Silver Nanoparticles Leads to Long-Term Gut Dysbiosis and Neurobehavioral Alterations. Maybe it's dysbiosis. Anyway, that study, which looked at the effects of AGNP that are used in a variety of consumer products, including, of course, topical wound dressings. It is an easily written and easy to read study that talks about how AGNP can pass through the placenta of a mother to the blood-brain barrier and to the offspring of mice. They observed that body fat increased and neurodegenerative behavior was also noted. If mice are any indication, Candace, and as I have been saying, her children are quite possibly in for a bad time. If her claims of taking this stuff is true. I am inclined to believe it is true because she doesn't actually shill for this product. And to the point of the show from the past, I had only ever heard her talk about this exact brand once before from a viewer comment she read that we covered on the show previously. But now, after we discuss this, it will be time to hear her speaking confidently and incorrectly about agyria. But I want to point out, this study on the guinea pigs was only done over 3 days.
Yeah, it was only a 72-hour period.
Yeah. So that is not enough time, even in people, even if you give them jacked up doses, to see that change. It's something that takes time to build up.
Yeah.
But it does build up. Have they continued to give these guinea pigs doses over several months?
Yeah.
And she can say that it was so many times of what she takes. Well, okay, but the case studies of people were also taking a fuck ton more than a teaspoon a day.
Yeah, well, that'd be rather equivalent to blasting somebody with, let's say the scientists that worked on some of the nuclear cores. Yeah. They got their blasting of radiation. They were okay. They felt really ill, and then 4 days later, they're dead. But if you
Right.
take them from the 3 days, they're kind of okay.
Yeah. They might even be feeling better. Yeah. All right. Next.
So where is the only place that you'll start to see this story of turning the skin blue? Well, there was one man, and this story was so big in the United States. His name was Paul Carrison, and I want to show you his story and show you how the media lies, even about his story. This is the man who turned blue. This is on Oprah's website. It was a huge internet phenomenon because no one's ever seen a blue man, right? So that's a picture of him in the before he started his silver nitrate solutions. It looks like a normal guy, right? Fair skin. He had freckles. And then that's an after photo of him with very, yes, correct, blue skin. Says right there in the article, Paul's blue skin is no trick of lighting or makeup. That is not a trick. It really is blue. Look deeper into the story because you'll always see them show this guy if you look up colloidal silver, and it's crazy because the guy says over and over again that it wasn't the colloidal silver that he was taking orally that caused this. Again, I take this orally, but first and foremost, he began making his own solution. So he was not going and buying this. And he says that his skin began turning blue. He had some strange dermatitis situation on his skin that was really bad. And he at first started taking silver nitrate with a friend of his, and he saw that instantly his arthritis cleared up within a couple of days, as well as his acid reflux. So this is a story that he tells to the media, by the way. I'm not verifying the story or condoning the story. I'm just telling you the story that he told before he died, and he did not die of anything related to colloidal silver.
Okay, that was a lot of lies. As we have already discussed, there are links included in the episode description for several studies showing this is a lie. In the case of Paul Carrison, who died from a heart attack and pneumonia after suffering a stroke, he was also a heavy smoker. Mm-hmm. And that is thought to have contributed to his overall health conditions outside of the obvious agyria. While it isn't thought that the agyria contributed to his death, it certainly didn't help his life. His actual story, by the way, is that he started ingesting 10 ounces of homemade colloidal silver a day, and he was not making silver nitrate. It is infuriating that she continues to equalize the two, but anyway, he took 10 homemade ounces of colloidal silver every day for several months. It did not even take a year. He was drinking it and applying it to his skin. According to Paul Carrison, a friend of his first noticed the change in his skin color. He may or may not have been a fluke. There are several theories, but what we do know is that silver accumulates in small amounts in the body. Most of what you would take in is excreted through normal pathways, but the stuff that stays and builds if one keeps ingesting it. The half-life of the stuff that is processed out through the liver into bile and fecal matter is about 50 days. But small amounts will wind up staying in the organs and tissues. This is a hell of a trade-off for something that has no proven benefits. Candace will continue to fuck up Paul Carrison's story.
Died because he had multiple surgeries, bypass surgeries. He was a smoker. He smoked packs of cigarettes per day. He was just an all-around unhealthy guy. But so he tells the story that he began taking it with a friend of his at first and noticed that he instantly had his arthritis being cleared up and as well as his acid reflux. So he was like, I am now hooked on colloidal silver. No evidence that what he's saying is true, but this is his story. He then had some really bad dermatitis and started directly applying his own homemade solution of of silver in general, with a bunch of stuff in it, and starts applying it to his face and starts noticing that it's turning his skin blue. In addition to that, he was drinking every day a 10-ounce glass. That's about a cup and a half of colloidal silver per day that he was drinking. I just said I take 1 teaspoon. Again, he says that it was not that caused it, that it was him, which would make sense considering his face is blue. It was whatever it was, the solution that he made at home. I mean, I would never make any kind of a solution at home. I'm happy to use natural products that are available. Really not for me to do that, and he was very open and honest about it. But the media, in the retrospect, sort of seized on this when they wanted to say colloidal silver was bad, and they kept showing this image over and over again of Paul Carrison, who began to be known as Papa Smurf. And so when you see this story, if you ever see someone showing you this guy, please look a little bit beyond the veil and see what he actually said in the interviews and look deeper. He is very honest that it was a daily silver cocktail, that it was not colloidal silver, and that he put it onto his face directly, which caused his skin to turn blue. Not the kind of colloidal silver that I am talking about, or that's in my hand, or that was used in these studies on the guinea pigs, that they could not find a level of toxicity. Again, if you are listening to this and you would like to debunk me and show me a study, I've looked all over the internet. I cannot find a scientific study where they were able to make any animal or any child's skin or adult skin turn blue with colloidal silver, and I would welcome that information, and I would openly share it on my Patreon account, because again, this is a fact-finding mission. I don't think my skin looks blue. I've now been taking it for a year and a half, 1 teaspoon. I don't think my skin looks blue. If you disagree and believe that it does, you can also leave that in the comments, guys. So there we go on silver nitrate. I implore you to look into it individually by yourself. I will put all of these NIH.gov studies on my Patreon account so that you can look at these yourself. Again, thousands of years of scientific evidence of people using this. They were totally fine with it until 1999, until Big Pharma, financial profit. Now it's bad. Candace is a quack. How dare she say that she takes it? Well, because I dare. That's how. All right, guys, quick break, and we will be back with quick questions to ask your doctor about erythromycin. And, of course, I will be answering some of your questions. We'll be right back.
Okay, I already said this shit, but let's start at the top. First, Paul Carrison said many times that he used a homemade colloidal silver solution. He never called it a cocktail. He never claimed it was silver nitrate. He continued to take it daily, even after the agyria had obviously settled in on him. He continued to take it until he died, because the damage had been done to his skin. He was somewhat famous for it, and he claimed it helped cure his acid reflux and his arthritis. So, moving on from that. Candace didn't look very hard, or possibly at all, to find any actual case studies on agyria. I have linked to 6 of them that I found in no time at all. 2 of them, the first 2, predate this series by several years.
Jesus.
There are likely more. I think the worst part is her only providing NIH links to her paid tier patrons. I'm on the free tier and there are links available, but not for this stuff. There are several links from NIH and other official groups just basically saying the simple truth about the eye ointment. It actively works against her story to include them. Anyway, it's time to get into doctor questions, I guess. She did run the same ad for her Patreon, and I did cut it out, as promised.
Well, at least she's being, I guess, kind of honest, at least, about the, stuff by including the stuff that disproves her shit.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially since she had to explain to people how to read them by click here for the full article.
Yeah.
You know, it's already been established that the fans of hers aren't trying very hard to understand the shit.
Nope. Not at all.
They just want it simply, served up to them in a spoon. Like from a paste tube.
Like colloidal silver.
Like an ivermectin.
Oh, yeah.
It's apple flavored.
Yum.
Yum. Probably not. Answer number 1. Let's hear it.
All right, guys, welcome back. And we are going to start with just a quick questions to ask your doctor, as we do with everything. So we're going to do this for the eye ointment that they give to newborns as soon as they come out. Here are 3 basic questions that I would ask. First and foremost, hey doc, I do not have gonorrhea. Why are you recommending this antibiotic for my newborn when the package insert does not recommend it for infants for any other cause listed?
Yeah, while not a doctor, anyone that listened to this episode could easily provide the answer. The eye ointment protects against more than just passing along gonorrhea, and causing blindness. It also protects against undiagnosed chlamydia and many other things that could affect the eyes of your infant.
Yeah.
Number 2.
I think that's a pretty fair question. Question 2, if you do have gonorrhea, I would ask, hey doc, I do have gonorrhea. Can we use silver nitrate instead, as was done with tremendous success before the birth of antibiotics? See what he has to say about that.
And to that, a doctor might say the following. In the United States, ointment is the only item for gonorrhea eye infection. Silver nitrate is no longer manufactured or available in the US and Canada for this purpose. Same with tetracycline. Silver nitrate is known to cause significant eye irritation, chemical conjunctivitis, temporary vision problems, and because safer alternatives became available, we stopped fucking making it for babies. While parents can refuse erythromycin in some states with documentation of informed refusal, they cannot request silver nitrate as a substitute in the U.S. as it is not available for clinical use. Also, most U.S. states mandate some form of neonatal eye prophylaxis, typically with erythromycin, and do not provide for substitution with silver nitrate. The CDC and other major medical organizations recommend only erythromycin for neonatal eye prophylaxis. If erythromycin is unavailable and the infant is at risk, such as a mother with untreated gonorrhea, an injectable antibiotic such as ceftriaxone is recommended instead. Studies have shown that both silver nitrate and erythromycin reduce the rate of neonatal conjunctivitis compared to no prophylaxis, but silver nitrate is not effective against chlamydia and it is more irritating to the eyes. Other agents, such as povidone iodine, have been studied but are not approved for routine use in the U.S. So yeah, sit there and fucking demand something they literally can't provide you?
Yeah.
That she could have fucking known about.
I feel like that'd be going to the doctor these days and going, hey doc, I got a massive cut. Can I just get some cocaine, like we used in the olden days to numb pain?
Now, I read somewheres that they used to give heroin as a cough syrup. Can I still get that? Do you have to write a prescription or some shit? I mean, I understand times is different, but heroin, man, for the coughing. It sounds like a good time. I mean, come on,
I heard somewhere that troops used to be given a form of meth in Germany. Is there any way that I could get some German meth?
Can I get some meth? God. Oh.
I don't know why, but the thought of a gentle hillbilly sitting there going, "Hey man, can I just get a little crack cocaine,
honestly,
please?"
Look, I don't want to run afoul of anyone who may be listening to this in Tennessee, but y'all know what kind of rural people you got there, and I have met several people from that area who are like, man. Okay, I had this one restaurant boss, right? The guy had land out in Kentucky and Tennessee. He had different woodland properties in both places. And he would go out to visit his properties every now and then and shoot, hunt deer and stuff. Not just to keep the population down, but also as a vacation for himself.
Yeah.
All right, man, whatever. He used to bring deer back and we'd process it in the kitchen. Probably not legal, but I mean... It was easily probably the least illegal thing that happened in that kitchen.
That's fair.
But anyway, so we're there and we're doing the whole thing, and I remember he said to me once, I was like, man, does someone watch your properties? When you're not there, do you have a neighbor or somebody that helps you out? He goes, oh yeah, no, I got a couple of neighbors that. They do the stuff, but I gotta tell you, every time I have to interact with these guys, I understand why we won World War II. And I was like, what? Okay, can you explain that? He goes, well, he's like, both of the boys that handled the properties in both of the states, they're so damn dumb, and they come from German families, and I was like, what the fuck? I had heard racist shit come out of this man's mouth. I had never heard this, and I was like, all right, he's like, okay, like I give you a simple instruction, right? And you go, yes, sir, and you just go take care of it. He's like, I appreciate that about you. It's like, okay. He's like, I have been on the phone with them separately at 2, sometimes 3 in the morning, explaining how a pump works on my property. These boys have worked on my pumps. They have fixed them. They know how to turn them on. And still, I know I'm in for some bullshit when it's the middle of the night and they ring me up. Because it's going to be something that I'm going to be like, if it's not fixable, just leave it alone until I get there in a couple of weeks. Like, but most of the time, it is me sitting there asking them, did you plug it in? Check the fuse box. Flip the switch. Call me later. It's like, and then I get out to my property and things look good. But they each hit me with the same dumb questions every time. And they're from German families, and all I can think of is, I understand how we won World War II. And I was always like, oh my God. And then he would always come back with stories about the stupid shit he had to deal with out of these boys. And I was always like, man, okay, that's fucked up. Can I get my deer heart now? that was how I got the deer hearts when I bring them home. Oh my God. And you people, I know y'all are probably like, oh, deer heart. Yeah, listen, Anthony Bourdain was right. It is the most perfect meat.
Yeah.
It is like, imagine a sirloin that's tender and has no fat. You can trim it up real easy. You can actually save the stuff around the pericardium. You can save that and turn it into a suet type thing, which is all the beef suet is. It's the fat from around the heart and around the kidneys of cows.
Yeah.
That's all beef suet is. Mm-hmm. I definitely prefer the stuff around the heart. Kidney sucks. I'm not a fan. Just because you have to do so much work to make it edible.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that. But heart is perfect.
Let's see, I don't mind rabbit heart and kidney pie, but that's also, once again, you're mixing it with heart, and it's a much
ton of other shit.
Yeah, and
it's a ton of other shit.
It's also a much smaller kidney, so it's not processing as much.
We used to get the chicken hearts too.
Yeah,
that's what we make dirty rice out of at home. Was we would get the chicken hearts from our chickens and the gizzards.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so glad that the gizzard place we had back in Florida exists here.
Yeah. See, I was never a big fan of gizzards. They were always like they were always too chewy for me.
They're a chewy chicken nugget.
Yeah.
No, I love them.
I never cared for them too much.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They are something that you either appreciate right off the bat or you'd never get used to.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
But shit.
Oh, next clip.
Number 3. Hey, Doc. The alleged adverse events of silver nitrate, remember they said that was eye irritation, is the same as the adverse events listed for erythromycin, also listed as eye irritation. Is there any reason you prefer one to the other, more natural product? I think those are fair questions to ask your doctor and to see what he says. You are allowed to decline. I believe in all states you're allowed to decline the eye ointment, so I would just ask the questions and see what they say. And
this is all kinds of false. Silver nitrate showed time and time again to have a much higher rate of conjunctivitis and blurred vision than erythromycin. Mm-hmm. And depending on medical facility and state, it may not be a thing that parents can opt out on, even with consent forms.
Yeah.
I can easily imagine parents, under this guise of misinformation, demanding a substandard level of care for their children based on the words of someone that is confidently incorrect about all of this shit.
Yeah.
Doctors and nurses and others that deal with these types, you are the best of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, questions and comments. With another Patreon ask, of course.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be a patron. It wouldn't be her if it wasn't Patreon ask.
Yeah.
In closing, I do want to get to some of your questions and comments. As you guys know, you can leave these questions and comments on Patreon if you are somebody that is giving to the show, which we really appreciate. These, just to remind you guys, are monthly donations. It's not a one-time donation, so give whatever amount would be good for you on a monthly basis. The first comment, which I thought was pretty amazing, came from Dr. Jim Meehan, and it's a long one, but I think it's worth the read. He says, I will no longer vaccinate my children because I am a well-trained medical doctor and former medical journal editor that has studied the vaccine research and analyzed both sides of the evidence. Because I know how to read the medical literature, recognize bias, and discern characteristics of good and fraudulent research. Because I know that too much of the science supporting vaccines is fraudulent dribble bought and paid for by the vaccine manufacturers themselves. Because I understand the risks of vaccination as well as the benefits of my children and grandchildren encountering and overcoming the wild-type diseases naturally. Because I know that diseases like mumps, measles, and chickenpox aren't dangerous and untreatable diseases that justify the risk of injecting toxic ingredients into the tissues of my children. Because I have seen evidence of neurotoxicity from ingredients like aluminum, polysorbate 18, human DNA, and cellular residues from the human cells lines upon which many of the live viruses are grown. Because I've seen vaccine manufacturers like Merck promote what they know was bad medicine for profit, kill 60,000 patients with Vioxx, and I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't do the same thing with vaccines, especially when you consider they can't be sued when their vaccines mime or kill children. Because I know the vaccine industry has thoroughly corrupted the science and the safety of vaccines. Because I recognize the aggressive and unreasonable tactics of multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry desperately working to maintain the illusion of vaccine safety, keep consumers consuming, grow their markets, and increase their profits. Because I have met so many families whose children were stolen from them by the battery of vaccines administered at pediatric vaccine visits. Because I believe the United States vaccination program has become a progressively dangerous assault on the health and lives of the children of America. Because I am awake and aware, I will not vaccinate, nor will I remain silent as the pharmaceutical and medical industries pretend that vaccines are safe and effective. Again, that's Jim Meehan. He's a medical doctor, and I just thought that was so incredibly powerful to hear a doctor say that. And I think the strongest lines there is he's not going to remain silent. And that's kind of how I have felt. I felt like once you have this information, you do digging and you just realize just how many toxic chemicals are put into our children. It's unconscionable to stay silent, and I will not allow my healthy child to be stigmatized because I made educated decisions about what to give him. You guys, next up.
Okay, I let that one play through fully so that we could understand the good doctor. Unfortunately, that was not actually Dr. Jim Meehan. That was a comment from a patron responding to episode 4, going by the name Conservative Jazz. I had to scroll through many comments to see it, but it's all right there. And even in the comment itself, everything she read was a quoted line from Dr. Jim Meehan.
I wonder what conservative jazz would sound like.
Now, here's the thing. Meehan has said all of that shit before.
Okay.
But what you should know about him is that he was a doctor of ophthalmology, an eye doctor.
Okay.
That switched his focus to integrative and functional medicine with an interest in chronic diseases. He was at the forefront of the measles outbreak in Samoa, along with RFK Jr., pushing people to embrace vitamin A and vitamin C as treatment cures for the plague. He has been an anti-vax idiot for many years and has never once authored a study showing any of his claims about vaccines to be true. He is another asshole using his title to grift. Fuck him. But again, he is being obviously quoted in this comment, not actually being the one that is replying. Another comment now.
let's get to another comment question. This is from Jessica. Jessica says, "Hi Candace, I have a question. Do you have any information about oral vitamin K and the efficacy of this in replacement of the injection? Thank you for providing us all this information, making us future mothers not feel so alone." Jessica, I don't have information about oral vitamin K, but I can point you in the right direction, and that would be the Netherlands. There are a lot of European countries that still use oral vitamin K, and the Netherlands, I think up until very recently, exclusively used oral vitamin K. So I would just look into different countries and look at their statistics and weigh them against American statistics in terms of jaundice and things of that nature. And I did start to do some preliminary research and found that the instances of jaundice were so much fewer in the Netherlands when they were not doing the intramuscular injection of vitamin K at birth. And so that's a good place to start without me giving you too much information now or deep diving myself. Look into the Netherlands. They have been a pretty organic culture, and it's so much different in Europe when it comes to vaccination. Again, America is the most aggressive country, and we call it progressive, but I'm pretty sure it's just aggressive when it comes to our children.
Yeah, I groaned loudly when she said all of this, and I was in a library study room and alone.
Isn't the whole point of this to be a deep dive into vaccines and all that sort of shit?
Yeah, like she should know this, yeah.
Yeah.
She should know this, and she should also know this because they should have presented her with this question in pre-show prep.
Yeah.
And someone, maybe Savannah, should have provided the fucking answer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That way, you know, she's not like, we're not going to be doing a deep dive on this, but, you know, you look at Europe when you're trying to find results for what you're looking for. Like,
well, even so, like I said, they had nothing but time to prep this comment. I go, well, actually, I'm glad you asked this. We looked into this for you, and here's the information. You know why she didn't want to change the fucking information? I know, you know why she was like, oh, do your own research? Because, the data from the Netherlands strips away her entire argument about vitamin K not being necessary. In the Netherlands, the standard practice was to give an oral dose at birth and then more over time, especially to breastfed infants. The reason for this is that in the Netherlands, infant formula contains a sufficient amount of vitamin K, whereas breast milk often does not. However, the data they were going off of in the Netherlands had to come from other countries in addition to their own as to the efficacy of the oral doses, because they didn't have enough newborns in any given year to provide sufficient data for their own standards. Anyway, the Committee on Nutrition of the Committee on Nutrition of the Health Council of the Netherlands, which is in The Hague, came up with new recommendations for infants in 2017. The committee recommended the vitamin K shot for those planning to breastfeed in a single dose. In 2017, one of the reasons is that the oral administration of vitamin K can cause diarrhea, which may reduce the absorption of the vitamin. They go as far to recommend the single dose for bottle-fed infants as well, just to cover the bases. The committee said it believes the new recommendations could prevent 2 to 5 cases of VKDB per year.
Jesus.
I will be linking to a PDF in English of these exact findings if you want to read it for yourselves. This happened several years before this video came out, and it was made public. Fucking absurd. The next comment is about kids that were involved in the COVID vaccine trials.
And as a last question, this is from Emily. Emily writes, "Hi Candace, something that has been on my mind since the Pfizer data has started to drop. Where are the parents of children who die in clinical trials? I am curious, are parents compensated? Do the children enrolled have parents? Surely parents know some risks signing waivers for their children to participate, but if I was a parent, which I am not, hopefully one day, I would be shouting from the rooftops if my child died in a clinical trial for a product that makes it to market. Not one death should be acceptable when administering unnatural substances into our body, otherwise it's poison." Okay, Emily, yes, these parents are speaking out. What's sad is that these parents aren't being listened to. There are entire websites that are dedicated to all of the parents whose children were injured by getting the Pfizer vaccine, whether it was in trials or outside of the trials, and they're being ignored. Their information is being pulled off of the internet. It's being deemed harmful, and the fact checkers have been insane about this. If you haven't realized, if I go on right now and I say anything about the vaccine, Pfizer, Moderna, whether it happened to me or not, you are risking having your account suspended for misinformation. I also want to point you in the direction, which we will drop in here, of a young woman who was a part of the Pfizer trial, and she was very harmed from the vaccine. And what's the most astonishing about this young girl's story is the fact that Pfizer did not record this as an injury. They recorded it entirely separate from what happened to her, and her mother has been speaking out, and you can hear the trauma in this mother's voice as she talks about what happened to her daughter, who will likely never be the same. The problem is that the FDA allows the vaccine manufacturers to control their own studies. It's completely senseless. I mean, imagine if your teacher was like, hey, you're allowed to grade yourself on everything. That's what the FDA is allowing with vaccine manufacturers. They control their own studies, so they get to say how they did, and then they get to bring it to market based on their own clinical trials that they got to grade. I mean, it's completely insane. So they get to say, if I have they get to say, okay, we only will record reactions that happen within the first 24 hours. But then if you 3 days later have a heart attack from what they gave you, they can say, oh, we only recorded it for the first 72 hours. And this is the story that Tucker Carlson covered, and this woman made the round. She wasn't just on Tucker Carlson. And I want you guys to take a listen to it right now.
The same woman just said earlier that colloidal silver is clearly safe because, it didn't affect the fucking hamsters after 72 hours.
Yeah.
So clearly it must be safe.
So before we get to Fucker Carlson, let's discuss this case for a moment in time. Maddie DeGray is the child in question here. According to her family, she was a normal 12-year-old girl. She went in for the vaccine trial, and after the second dose of the Pfizer-Moderna vaccine, she experienced severe and debilitating stomach problems that have ruined her life. She was denied a case in the vaccine court, and the family did file a VAERS case. Her case is an unfortunate outlier, and the family is, of course, keeping it in the court system because Pfizer denies any wrongdoing. I wish them the best, and I hope things improve for her. Her case, again, is an outlier. As for what Candace said regarding drug trials, they are always overseen by the FDA, as we have said before, and they have to follow protocols. The FDA also has oversight on follow-up studies on drugs, and so the health systems in other countries that coordinate with the FDA and other health agencies. Candace's take on this is all fucking absurd. I realize I say fucking absurd a lot, and I mean it every single time I say it. Mm-hmm. It could probably be a drinking game, though. Mm-hmm. But now...
Take a shot?
Yeah, take a shot every time I say fucking absurd. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is. But now, here is some of Maddie's mom on Tucker.
Upon receiving the second shot, Maddie immediately felt pain at the injection site. And over the next 24 hours, she developed severe abdominal and chest pain. And the way she described the chest pain, and I quote, "It feels like my heart is being ripped out through my neck." Over the next 2.5 months, her abdominal, muscle, and nerve pain became unbearable. She developed additional symptoms that included gastroparesis, nausea and vomiting, erratic blood pressure and heart rate, memory loss. She mixes up words.
I'm fascinated by the response that you have had since from physicians as you tried to treat your daughter. What have they said to you?
So the only diagnosis we've gotten for her is that it's conversion disorder or functional neurologic symptom disorder, and they're blaming it on anxiety. Ironically, she did not have anxiety before the vaccine. And the problem that we had is this was noted in her records early on. So anytime she saw any new specialist, because it was all in the same hospital, they already had their diagnosis before they even saw her.
Has anyone from the Biden administration, from the drug companies, anyone reached out to help you?
No. No. Not at all. They have not.
What, do they want
They
to
have
hear
not,
from you?
No, they don't. We have the response with the person that's leading the vaccine trial has been atrocious, and we weren't even asking for a lot. So we wanted to know what symptoms were reported, and we couldn't even get an answer on that. It was just that we report to Pfizer and they report to the FDA. That's all we got.
So Pfizer hasn't reached out to you to help in any way or to explain what might be happening with your
No.
daughter?
So there it is, Stephanie DeGarry, now in a wheelchair. Her mother has been making the rounds talking about this story. A lot of mainstream media sources who receive a lot of funding from Pfizer do not want to talk about this at all. And you can see her mother's devastated, as I would be. And this is clearly not a woman that is an anti-vaxxer. She signed her child up to get the vaccine. I would assume that there is some compensation that's involved in this. I can't say that for sure. But this is a very scary story. And I think the scariest part is just how afterwards the parents are treated, how afterwards the children are treated as if they are completely crazy, gaslit and told that, well, we have no evidence that it was linked to what we just injected into your arm. There's just no evidence. Remember when we talked about those FDA inserts and how they tell you, here's the clinical trial stuff, the stuff that we control, this is what you should rely on. And then there's that section that's like, oh, unrelated adverse events that we can't really verify. Yeah, that's us.
She was so close. I let that one go into Candace's material to show how she will hop onto this kind of thing. Nowhere in Candace's coverage of this story does she mention what I am about to tell anyone that has a heart and a few bucks to spare. There is a crowdfund effort set up by her family on a site called lifefunder.com, and it is still about $55,000 shy of its goal of $200,000 for Maddie's healthcare. As of the time of this writing, the last donation made was $100 18 days ago. I will be linking to the page itself in the show notes as well. The next and last clip of this particular show, because I'm cutting the last bit of end theme music, is Candace talking about the case, but not telling people about the crowdfund site at all. It was up when this episode aired, and she dodged it, only to ask money from viewers who were watching on a paid platform. Now, all of that said, LifeFunder is a very anti-abortion site, and they are definitely pushing hard on that kind of political bent. I'm offering this link up because nothing I was able to pull up otherwise suggests in any way that this family is grifting. If it comes out as otherwise later, I'll amend the link with an explanation in the show notes, and we will, of course, discuss it on the show. But for now, here is the last clip of this particular show. There is one coming up after this that I am so happy to play. But first, this one.
That's where Stephanie DeGarry is, right? Stephanie DeGarry is telling you what happened to her. Stephanie DeGarry is telling you that she instantly felt like, she was dying, and then suddenly now she's in a wheelchair. Pfizer's telling you, no, ignore that. That girl's a liar. Her mom's a liar.
Yeah, Candace, I'm just going to pause it right here. Candace keeps fucking up the family's names. Mm-hmm. Like, doesn't even have, the basic, wherewithal to get their names right.
Yeah.
Stephanie DeGarry is the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie is the daughter. She is the girl experiencing these issues,
yeah.
Allegedly. So, but let's allow her to continue being terrible.
Mm-hmm.
These people, give it a few weeks, they'll be called anti-vaxxers. Just like any person that asks meaningful questions that go against the narrative. You're not allowed to ask questions, which is why we are asking them all. You guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, I'm so sorry it was late. I encourage you guys, please support this podcast. It's just me, Nick, Savannah in a room, but I love what I'm doing, and I'm so appreciative to all the feedback that I'm getting from parents and just being able to finally have this conversation. God bless. I'll see you guys next week.
Nick and Savannah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nick is still with her as well.
Oh.
So no mention of fundraising, though.
Nope.
There you have it. Just using that family for her fucking jollies and riding the coattails of the story with no give back to them. Atrocious and ghoulish, but that's how she is.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, before we get into the soda review, I want to discuss something I heard on my run through Candace's shows leading up to Modern Horrors. On November 19th, 2024, she did a normal show of hers, and most of it was forgettable. Until I got to the viewer comments.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of these is that Candace is often very off the cuff when she speaks, as we have noted before. I was wondering how Andrew Tate wound up in her life. And then she said this.
God, this person writes, rumor online was that the Tates had blackmail on Candace's husband, and that's why she is defending the bros. I laugh because when has Candace ever Kate at a threat to her name, character, or livelihood? Oh, you do not know me. I am like, you wouldn't be able to blackmail me. I'm going to do that, like, if there's any trace of an idea that someone's holding something against me, I will literally go live and tell you everything. Like, I will pull out every skeleton. I don't really have skeletons in my closet. I've been honest with you guys. Like, I did get down at One Oak in my early 20s. There's definitely some footage of me dancing on a bar. A lot of footage. Okay? I'm not going to lie. If I run for president, I'm going to have to, like, take care of that. I'm going to have to send some people, some private investigators, you know, Diddy style, and be like, did you work as a bouncer at PhD? Have you ever seen this woman? I'm going to need some plausible deniability. I'm going to be like, oh, what are you saying? All black girls look alike? Like, I don't have skeletons in my closet. I'm a very honest person. That's why I feel it's just always better to tell on yourself, because you don't want people to have blackmail on you. So that's crazy. It's completely nuts that someone would think that they have blackmail on my husband, or that I would ever stand for. I'd be the first one to tell you everything. I'd be like, yeah, what's up? I'm built different, guys. I'm not a blackmail person. Genuinely, my husband I was very honest about the fact that my husband became friends with Andrew Tate, or friendly. They weren't even like that close, but like through London circles, through Paul Joseph Watson, who has a YouTube channel. I had met him. The amount of times I have literally laid eyes on Andrew Tate in my life is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 of those times was me interviewing him. So the whole like narrative that's being spun is just like very strange, but people need an excuse than just think that I'm saying what I think is actually right. Linz says, hi,
Yeah, this is probably not the final mastertation, but it does add to the lore, I think. So, George Farmer, Mr. Candace Owens, met Andrew Tate through fellow British fuckface Paul Joseph Watson. And there is yet another connection of right-wing shitfucks. For those of you who are unaware, Paul Joseph Watson, known to the Knowledge Fight listeners as PJ Dubs,
God,
was an on-air personality from InfoWars, who is the only person there that emerged relatively clean from the Sandy Hook trials by at least being smart enough to call bullshit on the thing and asked Alex to drop it early on. He is still a shitbag asshole, and I did not know he was the one responsible for this particular toilet swirl relationship until I heard her talk about it on this show. So that is all we will cover this week. And now, tonight, we will review a soda I have been looking forward to since we bought it.
God. Yep, pass her over. I'll read her.
Okay.
Ah.
Come on, it can't suck, right?
I mean, it can't suck, but that picture.
It's so good.
Okay, so. Today we shall taste the apocalypse with Kim Jong-un's Doomsday Lemonade.
Yep.
And just to add on the label, it says, "Hello, my name is Rocket Man." It's got like a little "Hello, my name is" label on them. Ingredients: carbonated natural artesian spring water.
So it's maybe good for us.
Pure cane sugar. Correction. To read it word for word. Pure can sugar.
Really? Does it?
It says can.
No.
Yes. Pure can sugar.
It does. Wow. Citric acid, gum acacia, natural and artificial flavor, ester gum, yellow 5. Oh, what? Hold on. Wait. Okay, yellow 5. I swear to God. Okay. They have a word on here abbreviated.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought it said art. I thought art was the next ingredient in here. Because it's just a period. I was like, art? How is that an ingredient? What the shit? No, it's artificial color.
Okay.
Yellow 5, comma, art dot color, no preservatives, flash pasteurized for safety. Bottled by the Rocket Fizz Soda Pop and Candy Shops LLC, Camarillo, California. It does. He's not lying. It says pure canned sugar on there. Wow. Oh boy. How about that? Okay. Here, I'm gonna let you pop it open. There you go.
Provided I can pop this one. The fucking Havana
yeah.
banana was a bitch and a half.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, well,
that one came right off.
shit. What?
Did it fizz at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
It poofed and it's fizzing currently. That actually smells pretty good.
There's yours.
Thank you. See, the funniest part about this is, let
it breathe for like a moment. Yeah, just let it breathe for a moment, then take a whiff.
What in the goddamn?
This smells like Fabuloso.
This smells
How
like
do they all
pine
smell
sol.
like yeah, a little bit. How do they all smell like floor cleaner? What the fuck?
I don't know, man.
I mean, and it's not just this company either. It's like the other one was the Blue Sun Soda Sours.
Yeah, those all smelled like fabulous. So yeah.
Oh my God, it's got that tinge to it. Oh Lord.
Maybe it's from the flash pasteurization.
I don't know. I mean, could be. I mean, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Tastes like a lemonade soda.
Yeah.
It tastes like Smirnoff Ice, but without the.
I've never had Smirnoff Ice.
Yeah, because I care about you. Smirnoff Ice, Mike's Hard Lemonade, Zima. Occasionally, Zima comes back into the market.
The only Zima
These
that
are
I know
all
of is not Zima.
Yeah, no. Zima was a clear malt beverage. Like I'm relating ancient history right now. It was from the 90s, but they had some real hopeful people at Zima.
Yeah.
Because on Babylon 5, in one of the bars on Babylon 5, there's a neon sign for Zima.
That's
the exact same corporate logo they had. They had gotten product placement on that show. And, you know, I'm watching it years later, like years after it's been off TV, and I'm like, oh, wow, they really thought that Zima was just, like, it had stopped existing.
Yeah.
Before I got to the show. And I was like, oh, wow, they really had some high hopes for Zima, like, because Babylon 5 is set way in the future.
Yeah.
Imagine my shock when a couple years back, Zima made another appearance in the market, and I was like, what the fuck? What is going on, you know?
Like, it's just something that ebb and flows in and out of the universe.
Yeah, it just like, and I mean, as soon as I got used to seeing it, it was gone again. Like, what the hell? But this tastes a lot like the current version of this in the world would be Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Okay.
That being said,
it is.
Mike's Hard Lemonade is kind of, it's a little more crisp, a little more refreshing. Mm-hmm. And it will fuck you up, but it'll fuck your stomach up. Mm. It's carbonated soda with booze, basically.
Oh, that
can really ruin your gut bubble.
Yeah.
For a bit, yeah. You might need to chug some colloidal silver to get it down.
God. No.
Fucking, oh my lord. I've got so many links in this fucking episode. Let me drink the rest of this real quick.
I've already finished mine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, this is kind of what I was hoping it would taste like. That was him.
Whew, excuse me.
That was me.
Yeah.
I've got so many links in this episode. I've got the 6 case studies I've got the Daily Beast article. I've got the colloidal silver and AGNP article.
Fucking hell.
I've got the Netherlands article. And I've got the Life Funder article. Or not article, the link for Maddie DeGray's donations.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, as of the other day, they were still accepting donations. There's no limit. Like, I think they were smart to do that.
Mm.
But, like I said, I clicked around on Life Funder a little bit, and it is a very Christian-based site. So know that going in. They did not go with GoFundMe or Give, Send, Go, as far as I'm aware. This is the only one that I'm aware of, is set up by the family, for the family. And like I said, it was still about $55,000 short of their goal.
Mm.
It's been up for a while.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're not waiting on funds. Like, I'm hoping they're not waiting for it to hit that $200,000 so that they get the money for this girl. I do not have any money to send that way. I basically do this. So, any of you who are listeners to the show, if you feel like you want to give something, and you obviously can't donate to us because I cut that avenue off a while back. Consider sending this family some money. Their life story right now seems to check out, and I don't see any reason why they can't get a few bucks from people that clearly have hearts, especially those of you who used to be our patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to give your life over to it, but send them some shekels. Maybe improve their day when they see the donations go up just a little more.
Yeah.
I think that's all that I have for now. Do you have anything to add before we kill this for the next couple weeks?
Nothing I can think about too much, except current Pope is kind of damn.
Yeah.
The outward when he first got into the seat for it, because they had made a public statement a long time ago of we'll never have an American Pope.
Yeah.
And then they have an American Pope. He sat back and he went, I would like to say that even though I am from Chicago, I am not American, because I have done missions in so many countries. I am Catholic.
Yeah.
I am, by all intents and purposes, Roman.
Yeah. Well,
and
he is fluent in Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also made certain to let everyone know that anything that he takes as a course of action is not due to the guides of Vance or Trump, and outwardly stated his hatred for both.
Well, now he's, now he's like, the Vatican is its own country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's recognized as its own thing.
Yeah.
Even within, like, Rome itself.
Yeah.
The Vatican is its own thing, or within Italy, rather. So, like, he is the ruler of a country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's he said, I think it's cool, and he seems, maybe more woke than Francis was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, time will tell, but yeah, it doesn't look like he's taking any of their shit.
Mm-mm.
So.
There was a Warhammer meme I saw with him, though.
Yeah.
That was, we are a few more high science weapons away and him getting ticked off enough at a neighboring country from the beginning of the great era of man.
Fucking Warhammer. Oh my god. All right. Well.
All right.
I'm gonna. Oh god. Do not.
What?
Look.
No, I don't.
If you're gonna fuck around with Rogue Trader, do it through Game Pass. Don't.
What? No, I'm not gonna fuck around with Rogue Trader. I didn't even know this was a game that came out.
Yeah, no, I fucked around with it.
Oh, what is it?
It is up the ass of Warhammer lore. I was playing it for a couple of hours, and I was like, "There's so much going on here that I don't care about."
What is it? Is it a card game?
No, it's a It's basically a top-down RPG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure for Warhammer fans, it's great.
Yeah.
But I am not.
Well, no. See, if I was gonna fuck around with a Warhammer, it would either be Dark Tide or Space Marine 2.
Yeah, okay.
As you can see, I already own Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
Bolt Gun, I don't remember that one.
That was on Game Pass forever. It comes and goes.
Oh,
One of them, Vermintide, is currently on there too.
Oh
But anyway.
God, Vermintide is.
Yeah, well-
Vermintide's great.
At any rate, we're going to cut this off, and
Yep.
we'll see you all again in a couple of weeks. As always, feel free to drop me a line at any of the social medias that I'll be linking to, and or email. Yeah. All right, that's it, everybody. Bye.
Bye.